Chapter 9:17. Qin Wentian's voice reverberated through the air, causing the hearts of everyone to tremble when they heard it. Qin Wentian wasn't the only one who entered the underground palace. At that time, Xianxing, Xiaolingyue, and the other geniuses had all entered together with him. However, only Qin Wentian managed to cultivate God's hand. The others didn't manage to do so at all. In the Emperor Palace, there were inscriptions left behind for everyone to cultivate. This wasn't an exception for Qin Wentian. Also, Qin Wentian's words should be true. Since Xianxing and the others were present, their lies were easily exposed. Evidently, Qin Wentian was the one who brought them out of the underground palace. God's hand is so powerful to such an extent. The difficulty of cultivating it must be exceedingly high. Maybe, Qin Wentian was able to cultivate it because of his shocking talent. Someone mused. After this battle, they wondered if his name would appear on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Although Qin Wentian had borrowed the power of God's hand was something that belonged to Qin Wentian himself. It was highly possible for him to be ranked on the Immortal Ascension rankings. It was just that if Qin Wentian was to be ranked on the Immortal Ascension rankings, where would he be ranked? You are truly arrogant to the extreme. Xianxing's aura turned extremely cold after being insulted. The experts of the Twin Stars Alliance arrived, surrounding Qin Wentian and the others. In this case, although Qin Wentian managed to repel the experts of the God Extermination Palace led by Ji Lanshan, the enemies before him were even more terrifying. Xiaolingyue led the experts of the Xiao sect, while Xianxing led the experts of the Twin Stars Alliance. No matter how powerful God's hand was, Qin Wentian was only at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon. He wouldn't be able to overturn the heavens. At this moment, the spectators couldn't help but to think that if Qin Wentian had the cultivation base of Xianxing and Xiaolingyue, at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, in addition to the power of God's hand, would he be able to sweep through everything? Given the strength of the God's hand, it would truly be very terrifying. Upon seeing so many powerful enemies staring at him, Qin Wentian's body emitted terrifying rumbling sounds as he expanded once again. His God's hand grew larger as well, but the boundless runic light was still as terrifying as before. Do you plan to come at me together, or one by one? Qin Wentian said proudly, his fighting spirit soaring, as if he was ready to fight. I have no interest in fighting against you. Xianxing coldly spoke. He directly waved his hands. Capture him. Don't take his life. Xiaolingyue also spoke. Momentarily, the experts from both sides stepped forward, wanting to capture Qin Wentian on the spot. Qin Wentian coldly laughed. A raging wind gusted by as he directly soared up into the air. As he soared up, over 10 experts followed behind him. A destructive might that could destroy the heavens and extinguish the earth swept through this space. It was too terrifying. However, at this moment, a low-sounding voice rang out from Qin Wentian's mouth. It sounded extremely ancient, causing a raging wind to kick up in the air. Chant of the demonic divinities, ancient will connecting to the heavens, gathering demonic chi from the 8 directions, devouring demonic energy from the starry skies. A surge of demonic chi engulfed the heavens and earth. Qin Wentian's entire body was brimming with demonic chi. That gigantic body of his seemed to be seething with demonic blood, emitting splashing sounds. The eyes of those experts who soared up together with him gleamed with sharpness, as they stared at Qin Wentian's silhouette. What a powerful demonic chi! The hearts of everyone trembled. In the air, the terrifying shadow of a great rock appeared, exuding a supreme demonic might. Summon the demonic divinities of the 8 directions. I shall transform into a demon. An ancient chant rang out unceasingly from Qin Wentian's mouth, as though there really was a surge of energy from the starry skies descending. A raging wind gusted as the heavens and earth changed color. Abruptly, darkness appeared in the sky, as though a gigantic creature was blotting out the sun. That was a great rock, incomparably demonic. Its body exuded the aura of a king, like a great sage among rocks. The wings of the great rock spread out, blocking out the sunlight. The hearts of the crowd trembled as they inclined their heads and stared at the sky. What was this? Demonic chi gushed downwards, accompanied by a raging wind. The crowd saw a pair of incomparably lofty demonic eyes, like the sovereign of the heavens. That pair of eyes was as lofty as Qin Wentian's, unexcelled in the world. Clearly, those were the eyes of Qin Wentian. Demonic beast? How can this be possible? Qin Wentian's true form is that of a demonic beast? Many people exclaimed in shock. Did another incomparably majestic demonic beast appear in the city of ancient emperors? He doesn't seem to be a demonic beast. Could it be that he has an extremely powerful demonic transformation technique? If this was the case, Qin Wentian was truly too terrifying. He was able to comprehend God's hand and had the supreme comprehension abilities of humans, the terrifying physique and strength of demonic beasts, as well as the speed of a wind rock. He was simply a perfect incarnation. What was even more terrifying was that the crowd discovered that God's hand was still there. Qin Wentian, who had transformed into the sovereign of the skies, had a violet gold color in his claws. This was the God's hand, incomparably gigantic, as though it could destroy everything. Not long ago, the thoughts of the crowd seemed to have come true in the blink of an eye. Right now, Qin Wentian, who had transformed into a great rock, already had a terrifying aura at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon. In addition to the God's hand, Xiaoling Yue and Xianxing's gazes froze as well. They stared fixedly at the great rock that appeared in the air. This fellow actually had such a trump card. He isn't a demon. This is a demonic art. He borrowed a powerful external force to transform into a great rock. Greed Wolf, who was beside Xiaoling Yue, spoke. Regardless of whether he is a demon or not, his combat prowess right now should be extremely high. Xiaoling Yue spoke in a low voice. Even for her, ranked number 6 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, she didn't dare to underestimate Qin Wentian, who had transformed into a great rock and possessed the God's hand. Given his current state, he shouldn't be able to sustain a prolonged battle. Let's exhaust his energy first. Greed Wolf spoke in a light voice. Xiaoling Yue didn't reply, but she didn't deny it either. Busy. In the air, Qin Wentian, who had transformed into a great rock, flapped his wings, causing a raging wind to kick up. An extremely sharp wind gusted downwards, sweeping towards those experts who were stuck in the air. Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Since all of you can enter the city of ancient emperors, you are all descendants of immortal kings and emperors. There's no benefit in foolishly sacrificing your lives for others. Such a thing isn't worth it. If I act now, I won't show any mercy. The cold and tyrannical voice sounded like it came from the mouth of a true monarch, containing an unexcelled aura. Some people wavered. Regardless of Xiaoling Yue of the Xiao sect or Xianxing of the Twin Stars Alliance, neither of them had any intentions of acting. It was like riding a tiger. It was hard for them to dismount. If they retreated now, it would seem like they were scared off by a single sentence from Qin Wentian. So many geniuses here are only afraid of you? You're just trying to scare us. Make your move. A voice rang out. It was none other than Xia Qianhan of the Xiao sect. As the sound of his voice faded, a terrifying aura engulfed the entire sky. Instantly, numerous violet gold divine arrows shot out, shimmering with golden runic light as they pierced through the air, shooting towards the great rock with lightning speed. Qin Wentian's God's hand grabbed downwards, directly blocking the golden divine arrows. They had no way to shake the god's palm. Busy. Qin Wentian's wings flapped as he instantly vanished from his original location. Although the wind rock's body was gigantic, a single flap of its wings allowed it to soar through the air. The speed of the wind rock was extremely fast. It had the title of the sovereign of the skies. With a flash, the terrifying body of the great rock directly appeared above the geniuses. The god's hand slammed downwards, wanting to shatter the void. Thunderous rumbling sounds rang out as quite a few geniuses were directly smashed into the ground, causing deep craters to appear on the ground. The bones in their bodies shattered as they screamed in agony. Disperse. An expert roared. The geniuses all unleashed their attacks at the same time. A moment later, gigantic palm imprints and sharp swords slashed out, unceasingly blasting towards the great rock. However, the great rock was like a bolt of lightning, vanishing from sight and reappearing in the air. How fast? It's too fast. The crowd inclined their heads and stared at the sky. Was this the speed of the sovereign of the skies? It could be said to be invincible. Qin Wentian had cultivated many of the techniques of the Great Rock, and he also had the rune bone of the Paragon Wind Rock, allowing him to comprehend the power of the Wind Rock. Although he had transformed into a Great Rock, his strength was incomparably proficient. Qin Wentian, who was in the air, flapped his wings once again. A hurricane manifested as a violet gold long spear appeared on the palm imprint. A beam of light flashed as the Great Rock dove downwards. His long spear pierced out with an incomparably fearsome speed. Upon seeing such an attack, there was basically no one who dared to block it. In an instant, all the geniuses all retreated in all directions. Not a single person dared to face such a spear technique that was executed with God's hand. Such destructive might was simply unimaginable. God's hand. When Xianxing saw how powerful God's hand was, the obsession in his heart grew even stronger. He had to obtain God's hand no matter what. Even if he had to dig out Qin Wentian's head, he had to obtain God's hand. However, at this moment, Xianxing suddenly saw a cold gaze shooting towards him. After which, that beam of light that could sweep through everything was rapidly closing in on him. At this instant, Xianxing only felt his hairs standing on end. He instantly released his constellation, forming an incomparably profound diagram that contained a terrifying divine might. Heavenly Mystic Mirror Art. Xianxing roared in rage when he saw the destructive attack of the long spear. The Heavenly Mystic Mirror, the ultimate art cultivated by the Xian Emperor, was unleashed. An incomparably profound ancient mirror appeared in the air, containing an incomparably powerful and mysterious might. Boom! Qin Wentian's long spear pierced downwards as a blazing beam of light erupted forth. Xianxing howled in rage as the ground beneath his feet crumbled unceasingly. That long spear seemed to want to suppress him on the spot. Cracking sounds rang out as cracks appeared on the Heavenly Mystic Mirror. However, Qin Wentian's body was similarly flung through the air. The long spear in his hand had already shattered, and even the god's hand was trembling slightly. Reflect attack. The eyes of Qin Wentian, who was in the form of a great rock, were cold to the extreme. Was this the strength of a genius ranked number 27 on the Immortal Ascension rankings? The son of the Xian Emperor? To think that the Heavenly Mystic Mirror Art would actually have such a mystical might. However, because his strength was so strong that it exceeded the limits of the Heavenly Mystic Mirror, the ancient mirror seemed to be on the verge of shattering. A raging wind gusted as Qin Wentian's body floated up once more. A long spear appeared in his god's hand, pulsing with destructive light. Xianxing's body trembled slightly as he stared angrily at the sky. You dare? His Heavenly Mystic Mirror Art seemed to have no way to withstand another attack from Qin Wentian. The power of this attack was simply too terrifying. It had reached an extreme. Chapter 9:18. The Heavenly Mystic Mirror Art is about to be broken. The hearts of everyone trembled. Any immortal emperor would have their own outstanding points, and they all cultivated terrifying ultimate arts. The Heavenly Mystic Mirror Art was one of the strongest ultimate arts of the Xian Emperor. It was able to reflect all attacks, and its might was extremely terrifying during combat. Xianxing was extremely strong, and he also cultivated the Heavenly Mystic Mirror Art. Hence, he was ranked number 27 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. However, no secret arts or techniques could be invincible. Once they met with a stronger attack, the balance would be lost. And when the strength of the attack was too much, even the Heavenly Mystic Mirror Art wouldn't be able to withstand it. Just like what happened before their eyes, Xianxing's Heavenly Mystic Mirror Art would only be able to block a single strike from Qin Wentian's god's hand. A second strike from Qin Wentian would most probably destroy his Heavenly Mystic Mirror Art. At this moment, Xianxing stared in anger at Qin Wentian, who was in the air. That gigantic figure of Qin Wentian gave him an immense sense of pressure. This was especially so for that incomparably gigantic god's hand. Runic light illuminated the sky, as though it was bestowed to him by a divinity. It contained supreme offensive power, and was truly worthy of being a lost secret art of an ancient emperor. You don't dare? Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with a demonic light as he stared at Xianxing below. Ever since the underground palace, Xianxing had wanted to deal with him time and time again. He once said that even if he wanted his life, he would snatch the painting from Qin Wentian. let alone now that Qin Wentian had already revealed his god's hand. Xianxing wouldn't hesitate to take Qin Wentian's life for the sake of obtaining the god's hand. As the saying goes, killing is forbidden in the city of ancient emperors. Everyone would hold back, but that was only relative. If there wasn't a life and death grudge between them, everyone would hold back. But if the benefits were too great, when a life and death battle occurred, the rules would be like glass, shattering with a single strike. From afar, the spectators all felt their hearts trembling. Although they were all geniuses, the disparity between Xianxing, who was ranked number 27, and those who weren't on the Immortal Ascension rankings was simply too great. For those who couldn't even enter the Immortal Ascension rankings, there was no way they could withstand the attacks of Qin Wentian in the form of a great rock. This was why they had to flee in all directions. As a result, Xianxing had to face Qin Wentian alone. A burst of intense light erupted forth. Qin Wentian's great rock form transformed into a beam of light. Demonic chi swept across the sky as a hurricane tore apart the void. Yet another violet gold long spear shot out. This spear strike was so powerful that even ghosts and gods would weep. Boundless runic light gushed forth, pressing towards Xianxing. At this instant, Xianxing was in the eye of the tempest, swaying in the wind and rain, as though he could be destroyed at any moment. Xianxing's strength was released to the extreme. His palm transformed into an ancient mirror as boundless astral light and runic inscriptions frenziedly flowed into it. The heaven mystic mirror art released an incomparably dazzling light. Between the great rock and Xianxing, there was a terrifying ancient mirror. However, everyone could still feel how insignificant Xianxing was. Bang! The long spear slammed into the surface of the mirror once again. The god's hand trembled slightly. One could see how terrifying its might was. But at the same time, the sound of shattering rang out unceasingly. Finally, the ancient mirror broke apart. That destructive long spear continued its attack, wanting to kill Xianxing on the spot. Upon seeing this scene, the gazes of everyone froze. Even Xiaoling Yue felt a chill in her heart. Qin Wentian actually dared to do this, wanting to kill Xianxing. Boom! Qin Wentian's long spear slammed into Xianxing. Many people trembled, not daring to believe this scene would happen. But at this moment, a terrifying aura erupted forth from Xianxing. It was as though an illusory palm directly grabbed hold of Qin Wentian's long spear. Xianxing's body was jolted to the ground as he coughed out fresh blood. And from his body, a terrifying shadow could be seen. This was the silhouette of an extremely imposing expert. Just by standing there, he already exuded the might of an emperor, unexcelled in the world. Brat, this is the city of ancient emperors. Why must you be so ruthless? Show mercy wherever possible. That imposing figure stared at Qin Wentian as he spoke. He stared at Qin Wentian as he slowly spoke. Xian Emperor. The hearts of the people in the surroundings trembled. This shadow must be the Xian Emperor's appearance. As the son of the Xian Emperor, Xianxing naturally had the immortal sense of the Xian Emperor in his body. You should say this to him. Xianxing is too overbearing. If I don't kill him, he wants to kill me. Qin Wentian stared at the Xian Emperor as he spoke. The Xian Emperor glanced at Qin Wentian's palm, as a look of surprise appeared on his face. Scram! The Xian Emperor's palm trembled as the spear shattered. Qin Wentian only felt his god's hand being struck by a terrifying force. His gigantic body was directly smashed into the void as his expression was incomparably cold. Against the immortal sense of the Xian Emperor, he had no way to resist at all. Most probably, if the Xian Emperor wanted to kill him, it would be as easy as flipping his palm. Qin Wentian stabilized his body. His god's hand had already been shattered. His gigantic eyes turned incomparably cold. Although the Xian Emperor's attack only shattered his god's hand, he still wanted to cut off his path of retreat. Impudent! At this moment, terrifying black clouds appeared in the sky, churning frenziedly, as though a storm was brewing. A towering might bore down from the clouds as a pair of eyes appeared in the air, exuding a towering demonic might. That pair of eyes stared straight at the Xian Emperor. You dare to interfere in the city of ancient emperors? An incomparably imposing voice rang out. The Xian Emperor stared at the sky as he spoke. I'm only a strand of immortal sense protecting my son. I didn't kill anyone, nor did I interfere in the matters of the city of ancient emperors. I'll take my leave now." As the sound of his voice faded, the Xian emperor coldly stared at Qin Wentian in the air. After that, his strand of immortal sense directly dissipated as though it had never appeared before. "Humph." A cold voice rang out in the air as the terrifying storm gradually dissipated. However, this scene caused the hearts of everyone to tremble. The city of ancient emperors was truly incomparably mysterious. Without permission, even immortal kings and emperors wouldn't be able to enter. Even immortal emperors weren't allowed to interfere in the matters of the city of ancient emperors. Xianxing stood up. Although he was injured by that attack earlier, his father's immortal sense appeared and blocked the vast majority of the attack for him. Hence, he wasn't seriously injured. Right now, his eyes were staring at Qin Wentian in the air as his killing intent was incomparably sharp. Xianxing. From afar, a figure could be seen flying over. Xianyang's speed was extremely fast, bringing the experts of the Twin Stars Alliance with him. "Big brother." Xianxing pointed to the great rock in the air when he saw Xianyang. "This man has obtained ancient Emperor Yi's secret art, God's hand. Capture him." Xianyang is here. This time around, Qin Wentian is in danger. When everyone saw Xianyang rushing over, they all faintly felt that Qin Wentian was in for it. What sort of character was Xianyang? He was ranked number 4 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. His heavenly mystic mirror art was many times stronger compared to Xianxing. Even God's hand might be able to block it. Let alone the fact that Qin Wentian's God's hand was shattered by the immortal sense of the Xian Emperor. It was unknown whether or not he could reform it again. Those who could rank within the top 10 of the Immortal Ascension rankings were all extraordinary characters. They were true geniuses at the very peak, with shocking strength and secret arts. The strength of the number 4 Xianyang was definitely unimaginable. Right. Xianyang nodded. His body slowly soared up into the air, exuding an unexcelled aura. His entire body circulated with a glass-like light as the power of his bloodline was released. His entire person turned translucent, resembling a mirror image that could vanish at any moment. His constellation also appeared. It was actually an ancient mirror with flowing light circulating around it. Xianyang's heavenly mystic mirror art has been cultivated to an astonishing level, much stronger compared to Xianxing. This secret art is extremely unique. Xianyang used it in his attacks and defeated many geniuses. In the city of ancient emperors, he's an existence akin to a king. Someone mumbled. If Qin Wentian could still condense God's hand, he might be able to fight against Xianyang. But if he couldn't condense it, he would die for sure. Qin Wentian floated in the air. His God's hand was shattered by the Xian Emperor's immortal sense, and it was true that he couldn't condense it again. This was ancient Emperor Yi's secret art, God's hand, a truly terrifying innate technique. How could it be so easy to cultivate? Even in its initial form, he needed the help of the spirit refinement method before he could use it. Although he was the only one who had successfully cultivated this secret art, there were still limitations to it. In the future, he still needed to be more proficient in it. This Xian Emperor should have seen how powerful God's hand is and intentionally destroyed it with a single strike. Qin Wentian silently mused. This Xian Emperor was as expected of an immortal emperor character. Although he was restricted by the city of ancient emperors and didn't directly injure him, he still understood what was best for his descendants. Xianyang, ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Qin Wentian stared at his opponent. Being ranked number 4 meant that Xianyang's strength was at the peak of the entire immortal realms. "You are courting death." Xianyang stared at the great rock before him. His constellation shone with boundless light as he pressed his finger downwards. At this instant, the transparent mirror-like constellation shone with a golden luster. Beams of light directly pierced into Qin Wentian's eyes, accompanied by a boundless killing intent. The crowd only saw several beams of intense light appearing in the air. Each beam of light was like a mirror, shining with a violet gold luster. It was so blinding that it could hurt the eyes of those who looked at it, as well as containing a destructive might. Qin Wentian's great rock body transformed into a beam of light, as he soared up into the air. However, the beams of light continued shooting towards him, and any one of them could kill. How terrifying was the speed of light! It was actually able to chase after Qin Wentian's body. If Xianyang's opponent was a genius that wasn't ranked in the Immortal Ascension rankings, he would have been instantly killed. How powerful! The people below stared at the sky. How could a true genius at the peak be weak? Do you only know how to dodge? Xianyang roared. After which, the claws of the great rock slashed out, transforming into a gigantic palm that blotted out the skies. The beams of light that shot towards him were all destroyed. Busy. A raging wind gusted as Qin Wentian directly rushed toward Xianyang. As he moved forward, his sharp claws unceasingly slashed out, colliding with the beams of light. Qin Wentian's attacks are also excessively powerful. Even if he doesn't rely on God's hand, his current strength is already sufficient to rank within the top 100 of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Many people silently mused. Chapter 919. Xianyang stared at Qin Wentian. Yet the expression on his face was so calm that it was terrifying. Astral light shot out unceasingly, and although they were all destroyed by Qin Wentian's palm imprints, it still caused Qin Wentian to feel extremely unhappy. Busy. A translucent long spear appeared, as though it was birthed from the constellation. Xianyang stretched his hand out and grabbed it. This gigantic spear appeared in his palm, exuding a solemn and serene aura, causing everyone to feel the majesty of a supreme genius. Lingyue, Qin Wentian will lose for sure in this battle. We cannot allow Xianyang to obtain Qin Wentian so easily. What should we do? Greed Wolf spoke to Xiao Lingyue, who was beside him. He was one of the top rankers in the Immortal Ascension rankings, and was very clear on the disparity between Qin Wentian and Xianyang. If Qin Wentian had the God's hand, he would be able to fight against Xianyang because his attacks were incomparably powerful. But without the God's hand, Qin Wentian's rock transformation only increased his speed and strength, but not his comprehension. His constellation was clearly weaker when compared to a peak-level mystic sun, celestial phenomenon ascendants. The amount of power he could borrow from his constellation was also far inferior compared to Xianyang. Although he could increase his strength by transforming into a great rock, he couldn't. Also, there was the matter of comprehension. For those geniuses ranked within the top 10 of the Immortal Ascension rankings, they all had their own unique insights. They already wanted to step into the immortal realm and comprehend the power of immortals. Although they hadn't reached the immortal realm yet, they had already grasped the embryonic form of immortal energy. Such an advantage would be extremely destructive to Qin Wentian. How could the top rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings have an undeserved reputation? Hence, from Greed Wolf's point of view, even if Qin Wentian borrowed the power of his great rock transformation, he would still lose for sure. Let's wait a little longer. Even if the two of us join forces, we might not be able to defeat Xianyang. Xiao Lingyue spoke. She wasn't arrogant at all. For those at their level, they all had secret arts that far surpassed ordinary geniuses. Xianyang had already utilized the heavenly mystic mirror art to the pinnacle of the celestial phenomenon realm, infusing it into all of his attacks. Each and every one of his strikes were able to create a backlash force. This also meant that when you fought against Xianyang, if you attacked him, you would suffer a backlash from your own energy. The stronger your attack, the stronger the backlash. From this, one could very well imagine how difficult it was to fight against Xianyang. If not, how could Xianyang be ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, suppressing her and the other female? Yes. Greed Wolf nodded his head. In the air, Qin Wentian descended with terrifying speed. His palms directly grabbed toward Xianyang, and as his claw descended, the shadow of a great rock manifested in the air. The rock let out a terrifying screech, wanting to tear Xianyang's body apart. Before this attack, Xianyang's body seemed extremely tiny and inconsequential, but the aura he exuded made him seem like a giant. The long spear in his hands slashed out as boundless astral energy shone upon it. Countless beams of light appeared in the air. Qin Wentian found it hard to even open his eyes. Bang! An incomparably powerful force blasted into Qin Wentian's sharp claw. He retreated like the wind, like a true wind rock, retreating far away. His gigantic claw trembled slightly, and as expected, it was the same as Xian Xing's attack. At the same time when the attack was rebounded, there was also a terrifying burst of energy gushing forth. Under the stacking of these energies, Qin Wentian's sharp claw felt like it was about to shatter. Qin Wentian glanced at Xian Yang's silhouette, silently musing that Xian Yang was indeed worthy of being ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. He released his battle art as boundless runic light circulated around the body of the great rock. His eyes shone with incomparable sharpness, as though they could penetrate through people. His constellation shone in the sky, shining upon him. Busy. A resplendent arc appeared in the air as Qin Wentian rushed out once more. He was as swift as the wind, and only a beam of light could be seen. Xian Yang still stood in the air, staring at the silhouette of the great rock. The power of his constellation frenziedly gushed forth, yet at this moment, he saw Qin Wentian completely ignoring the might of his constellation. When the destructive beams of light blasted into the body of the great rock, crisp sounds of collision rang out as they collided with the runic light on the surface of the great rock's body. What a terrifying defense! The hearts of the spectators trembled. The great rock was a demonic beast, the sovereign of the skies. Its speed and strength were terrifying, and its defense wasn't weak either. In addition to Qin Wentian's battle art, as well as the Fiend God body refinement art, Qin Wentian's defense had truly reached a terrifying level. It was basically impossible to deal with him, using only the might of his constellation. Qi. A palm strike capable of ripping apart the void blasted out. Xian Yang directly stabbed out with his spear, and with a thunderous boom, Qin Wentian's silhouette vanished completely. Only the howling of the hurricane could be heard. Bang bang bang. Next, terrifying sounds of collision rang out unceasingly. That incomparably great rock's speed was too fast, akin to a bolt of lightning, unceasingly hacking toward Xian Yang. Xian Yang's attack speed was also extremely fast, and it was unknown how many times the two of them collided in that short instant. Time and time again, Xian Yang's entire body was akin to the silhouette of a great rock, blotting out the sun as his demonic qi towered up into the heavens. Although Xian Yang's strength was terrifying, such an endless number of collisions still caused him to feel somewhat impatient. How fast? This speed is simply unparalleled. Even if Qin Wentian is defeated, if he wants to leave, even Xian Yang wouldn't be able to stop him. The hearts of the spectators trembled when they saw the earth-shattering collisions in the air. Abruptly, a marvelous aura gushed forth from Xian Yang as boundless astral light revolved around him. His long spear stabbed out once more. The speed of this spear seemed to have slowed down, but if one looked carefully, they would be able to see that when this spear pierced out, with Xian Yang as the center, the entire space seemed to be filled with a mysterious law energy, as if the entire void was a mirror. When the long spear pierced out, it directly descended in all directions. Xian Yang's spear was clearly piercing forward, yet the spear light was refracted in all directions. Bang! Behind Xian Yang, Qin Wentian's palm imprint smashed down, bringing with it a towering destructive might. However, a crisp sound rang out as beams of mirror-like light shot over, refracting unceasingly. Qin Wentian only felt that his sharp claws were withstanding an incomparably fearsome force. That was the force of his own attack. Not only that, the force of Qin Wentian's attack wasn't limited to just one level. Qin Wentian's strength seemed to have overlapped with each other, akin to a tsunami of attacks gushing towards him. With a thunderous boom, Qin Wentian, who was in the form of a great rock, was flung far away as he coughed out fresh blood. Immortal law energy. Below, the geniuses inclined their heads and stared at this scene with shock in their hearts. As expected, the geniuses ranked at the top of the Immortal Ascension rankings not only had towering attacks, they had also comprehended a strand of law energy, fusing it into their attacks. How terrifying! Multi-layered rebounding force. Although Qin Wentian was in the form of a great rock, he was still at a disadvantage in terms of cultivation base. Also, other than God's hand, all the other innate techniques he cultivated couldn't be compared to the Mystic Emperor's ultimate art, the Heavenly Mystic Mirror art. In addition, Xian Yang had also comprehended a strand of immortal law energy. In this case, as long as he couldn't break the Heavenly Mystic Mirror art, No matter how strong his attacks were, they would all be reflected back to him. Unless he had an absolute advantage like when he used God's hand against Xianxing, he wouldn't be able to break the heavenly mystic mirror art with brute force. Qin Wentian, who was in the form of a great rock, was still retreating. After fighting for so long, his energy consumption rate was terrifying. In addition to the fact that he had encountered the ultimate attack earlier, he felt extremely fatigued. All of this, from the moment the Xian Emperor unleashed that ruthless strike, the ending was already set in stone. A casual strike from the Xian Emperor, although it didn't violate the rules of the City of Ancient Emperors, it still managed to break his god's hand. Senior brother, be careful. At this moment, a roar rang out. It was none other than the voice of Jun Mingchen. Qin Wentian abruptly felt a sense of danger descending upon him. Behind him, there were several terrifying auras gushing towards him. At the same time, Xianyang also stepped out, his speed as fast as lightning as he dashed towards Qin Wentian. Bzz. Qin Wentian's wings abruptly flapped, forcibly stopping his retreat. After which, he flapped his wings again and soared up into the sky. Grand freezing art. At this instant, a shocking wave of ice chi froze the heavens and earth. The entire space was covered in frost. Qin Wentian's gigantic body instantly froze, transforming into an ice sculpture. Not only him, the entire space he was in seemed to be frozen as well. However, the wind rock was still rushing upwards. Bang! A terrifying wave of demonic chi gushed forth, shattering the ice sculpture inch by inch. At this instant, Greed Wolf appeared on the back of the great rock and directly stabbed out with his finger. In that instant, the destructive might of the chaotic world pierced into Qin Wentian's body. The terrifying killing might ravaged Qin Wentian's body, causing him to feel as though his entire body was about to be torn apart. You won't be able to escape. Xiaoling Yue's cold voice drifted over. Another wave of ice energy descended, causing the expressions of the experts below to turn numb. Xianyang, ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Xiaoling Yue, ranked number 6 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Greed Wolf, number 12 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. These three could all be said to be supreme geniuses, supreme experts. Now that they acted together against Qin Wentian, one could very well imagine how terrifying the killing power would be. This battle was truly tragic. Qin Wentian had cultivated the god's hand. How could these people not do their best to capture him? But now that he was in the form of a wind rock, his speed was simply too fast. If they wanted to capture Qin Wentian, they would have to heavily injure him first. Xiaoling Yue's figure descended. Her palms were infused with the terrifying power of ice, growing stronger and stronger as she once again blasted out towards Qin Wentian's gigantic body. Her methods were extremely ruthless. Senior brother. Jun Mingchen's eyes were bloodshot. He soared up into the air. Zi Qingxian also did the same. However, the experts of the Xiao sect directly blasted out palm imprints, obstructing them. Scram! Jun Mingchen stared at Xiaoling Yue's palms as the veins on his entire body bulged. This attack of hers would most probably cause his senior brother to suffer a devastating injury. Finally, Xiaoling Yue's attack blasted out. Jun Mingchen let out a terrifying roar that shook the heavens and earth. Bang! The power of ice finally blasted out, but it didn't manage to land a hit on Qin Wentian's body. The power of ice was frenziedly being torn apart as an intense golden light appeared in the air, frenziedly tearing apart the power of ice. Within that golden light, a supreme silhouette could be seen. Chapter 920. A dazzling golden light descended, causing the hearts of the geniuses to tremble. Before this, Xiaoling Yue and Greed Wolf suddenly acted against Qin Wentian. Evidently, they didn't want Xianyang to capture Qin Wentian, and wanted to injure him before snatching him away. But at this instant, golden light illuminated the sky. There seemed to be an expert descending from the heavens to save Qin Wentian. Could it be that this person was the same as Xiaoling Yue? Someone who wanted to snatch Qin Wentian away? A spatial storm appeared in the sky, and dazzling rays of golden light shot out in all directions like sharp swords. When they saw the figure wrapped in light, everyone's eyes narrowed, and their hearts trembled violently. Xianyang, who was rushing over, suddenly stopped. He frowned, and a strange expression appeared on his face. Why was she here as well? Was she also here for the god's hand? The figure that appeared was actually a peerlessly beautiful woman. Her expression was as cold as ice, and even though she was angry, she was still so beautiful that it caused people's hearts to tremble, and they couldn't help but feel pity for her. Her holy figure was like a celestial maiden from the 9 heavens, noble, holy, and elegant. What a beautiful maiden! Her countenance is even more outstanding compared to Xiaoling Yue. Who is she? Someone asked. Could she be Nam Huang Yunxi? No, I've seen Nam Huang Yunxi once before. Although they are both supreme beauties, their auras are different. Someone replied. Then who could she be? There are only 3 people in the city of ancient emperors with such an aura. Xiaoling Yue is already here, and Nam Huang Yunxi is also eliminated. Who else could it be? That person spoke again, his words causing the gazes of everyone to tremble. Among the 3 supreme beauties in the city of ancient emperors, the daughter of the Chongqing the Great was the most mysterious. She rarely showed her face in public and had an innate immortal king physique. She didn't establish any sect in the city of ancient emperors, and there were no rumors of her interacting with anyone. But now she actually appeared? The daughter of Chongqing the Great, Princess Qing. Many people gradually learned the identity of the person who had appeared, and they were slightly surprised. The person who was most unlikely to appear actually appeared here at this moment? Is she Qing, senior brother Qin's lover? Jun Mingchen stopped fighting at this moment. He stared at the peerless figure floating in the air as a smile appeared on his face. Just when senior brother Qin needed help the most, Princess Qing had appeared. Not only that, she was a peerless beauty that matched well with senior brother Qin. No wonder senior brother Qin had always wanted to find her. Senior brother Qin and Princess Qing will definitely become an immortal couple. Jun Mingchen smiled. Zi Qingxian, who was beside him, also stared at that peerless figure as a look of disappointment flashed through her eyes. No wonder he couldn't forget about Princess Qing. Such a woman, with such strength and status. She had appeared by his side when he needed her the most, fighting shoulder to shoulder with him. In the air, Qin Wentian, who was in the form of a great rock, stared at that familiar figure as boundless warmth flashed in his eyes. At this instant, it was as though all the pain and injuries he had suffered were insignificant. After so many years, he finally saw Qing again. The distance between the particle world and the immortal realms was simply too far. Sometimes, he was also afraid that the two of them would be separated from each other. He was worried that time would change too much. Fortunately, he was thinking too much. She still appeared when he needed her the most. Just like in the past, as a man, he should have been the one to protect her. However, Qing was like his knight. She would always appear when he was in the most difficult situation, stand in front of him, and give him the help he needed the most. Moreover, she would do it silently, without asking for anything in return. This feeling, under the passage of time, accumulated deeper and deeper. A powerful golden light enveloped Qing, as well as Qin Wentian's gigantic body. Qing coldly stared at Xiaoling Yue, so cold that it caused chills to rise in the hearts of people. Xiaoling Yue also stared at the peerless figure before her. Regardless of demeanor or countenance, this woman wasn't in any way inferior to her. The daughter of Chongqing the Great, Princess Qing. Although Xiaoling Yue had never met Qing before, she could guess her identity. She had always been searching for Qing. The Immortal Ascension ranking stated that she was ranked number 6 while Qing was ranked number 5. In fact, Qing had even surpassed her. This made Xiaoling Yue extremely unhappy. She had been searching for Qing for a long time, wanting to have a battle with her. But even so, Xiaoling Yue didn't expect that they would meet each other at such a time. At such a time, Qing shouldn't have appeared here. You also want to capture him and snatch God's hand? Seeing that Qing wasn't replying, Xiaoling Yue continued. I initially thought that you had nothing to do with the world. But now that God's hand has appeared, you can no longer endure it? Qing still coldly stared at her, ignoring Xiaoling Yue. She turned her head back and saw the warmth in Qin Wentian's eyes. The coldness in her eyes vanished, replaced with a hint of worry. She didn't expect that she would encounter Qin Wentian here in the city of ancient emperors. She didn't expect that he would be able to arrive so quickly in the city of ancient emperors where the geniuses of the immortal realms gathered. Qing'er had never doubted Qin Wentian. It was just that she didn't expect Qin Wentian to be able to arrive so quickly. Seeing Qing'er directly turning her head and ignoring her, Xiaoling Yue's entire body erupted with coldness, extremely terrifying. After that, she only heard a melodious voice ringing out. "You are injured." Qing'er stared at Qin Wentian. That melodious and gentle silhouette of hers was completely different from the cold demeanor she exuded earlier. It was as though they were two different people. Her voice contained a trace of worry, as well as a hint of sadness. The gazes of the crowd froze. This Qin Wentian was acquainted with the daughter of the Chongqing the Great, Princess Qing. Qing'er didn't come here for the god's hand, but rather, it was because she was acquainted with Qin Wentian. Xiaoling Yue's beautiful eyes froze as she stared ahead in bewilderment. After that, she only saw a smile flickering in Qin Wentian's eyes as he spoke. "After seeing you, what do these injuries count for?" As the sound of his voice faded, the hearts of the crowd trembled. Qin Wentian's words were filled with ambiguity. They stared at Qing'er's expression, wanting to see her expression of anger. However, she was still as calm as ever, as cold as ever. However, the coldness she exuded was different from the coldness she showed to Xiaoling Yue. This was an innate temperament, containing a hint of warmth within the coldness. Or maybe, this was just her personality. To everyone's surprise, Princess Qing'er wasn't angry at all. She only asked, "Why did you come to the city of ancient emperors?" "I came here to look for you," Qin Wentian replied. "I met Princess Liuli before. She told me that you are here." "Oh." Qing'er's expression was as cold as ever. However, a hint of warmth could be seen in her beautiful eyes, as well as her heart. No wonder he would appear here. He was actually here to look for her. Qin Wentian must have experienced many trials and tribulations on his way from his particle world to the city of ancient emperors. The conversation between the two of them caused strange expressions to appear on the faces of many. Seems like the relationship between Qin Wentian and Princess Qing'er was extraordinary. Their words were extremely intimate. Princess Qing'er. At this moment, Xian Yang, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke. He coldly continued. "This man is incomparably arrogant, wanting to kill my younger brother. I will definitely settle this debt with him. This matter has nothing to do with you, so please don't interfere." Things are getting more and more interesting. Xian Yang is ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Princess Qing'er is ranked number 5, and Xiaoling Yue is ranked number 6. All three of them have appeared here. How interesting. The spectators all had expressions of interest on their faces as they stared at the geniuses in the air. The three of them were facing off against each other, with Qin Wentian at the center of the storm. Xian Yang and Xiaoling Yue both wanted to capture him and obtain the god's hand. Yet, Qing'er was acquainted with Qin Wentian and wanted to protect him. Qing'er's countenance was ice cold. She coldly stared at Xian Yang, ignoring him. Her personality was still the same as before, rarely speaking. Only Qin Wentian could make her speak more. "Let me ask you one last time. Are you going to scram or not?" Qin Wentian's gigantic eyes stared at Xian Yang as he coldly spoke. Xian Yang's eyes flashed with coldness. "Could it be that you think Princess Qing'er will definitely be able to protect you? In addition, are you even qualified to speak to me by relying on a woman?" Relying on a woman? A mocking expression appeared on Qin Wentian's face. "Even your father acted against me, shattering my god's hand. Yet you still have the face to speak to me like this? If it wasn't for your father intentionally doing this, do you think you have the qualifications to be so arrogant in front of me? Since this is the case, let me see if your father left a strand of his immortal sense on you." Qin Wentian icily spoke. "Leave it to me." Qing'er seemed to understand what Qin Wentian wanted to do. She then walked to Qin Wentian's side. "I can't possibly face you in my great rock form again, right? Qing'er, it's fine. Given my current strength, although the amplification effect of these techniques is getting weaker and weaker, the damage they can do to me is also getting weaker. I don't need to recuperate for too long." Qin Wentian's gigantic eyes flickered with a gentle smile. Xianyang was the number 4 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings. In addition to Xiao Lingyue and Greed Wolf. How could he feel at ease leaving them to Qing? Qing'er, leave it to me. Qin Wentian laughed. Abruptly, boundless sword might gushed forth from him. His entire body seemed to be on fire, as though he wanted to squeeze out every last strand of energy from his body. A towering beam of sword light shot up into the sky. Qin Wentian's gigantic body flickered as his sword might swept out in all directions, transforming into a terrifying wave of sword qi. It's that strike. From afar, Ji Lanshan and the other experts from the God Extermination Palace felt their hearts trembling when they saw this scene. If Qin Wentian transformed into a great rock and unleashed that sword strike, how terrifying would the might be? Xianyang abruptly furrowed his brows. He activated the heavenly mystic mirror art to its limits, but he could also sense an intense threat from Qin Wentian. That surge of sword qi was simply too terrifying. Qin Wentian stretched out his claws. Instantly, boundless sword might congregated on his claws. His gigantic claws slashed out as a world-shaking sword qi manifested, capable of annihilating everything. I'm thinking, earlier when your little brother Xianxing suffered an attack from me, your father's immortal sense appeared and acted against me as an immortal emperor, shattering my god's hand. In that case, would a second strand of immortal sense appear on your little brother Xianxing's body? Qin Wentian coldly spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, Xianyang's countenance drastically changed. What do you mean? Chapter 921. Xianyang's expression changed when he heard Qin Wentian's words. Just like what Qin Wentian said, Xianxing had already suffered a fatal blow. It was the immortal sense of his father, the Xian Emperor, that protected Xianxing from death and shattered Qin Wentian's god's hand. Xianxing no longer had the protection of his immortal sense. If he were to receive another attack like the one earlier, it would definitely be a destructive blow to him. This was also the reason why the Xian Emperor wanted to destroy God's hand. But right now, the energy unleashed by Qin Wentian was enough to threaten Xianxing's life. How could Xianyang not be shocked? After he shouted out the words, "What do you mean?" Qin Wentian's gigantic body had already moved. He was like a bolt of lightning, radiating boundless sword might as he shot downwards. Fast, so fast that it was inconceivable. Not good, Xianxing has an immortal weapon. Xianyang roared. Xianxing didn't even have time to react. Just as the sound of Qin Wentian and Xianyang's voice faded, he saw a terrifying great rock speeding towards him. Instantly, Xianxing's aura gushed forth frenziedly as an immortal weapon appeared in his hands. Halt! A cold voice rang out. A surge of sword qi condensed into a corporeal sword as boundless sword might enveloped Xianxing within. The terrifying great rock blocked Xianxing's vision. The claws of the great rock pressed down. As though as long as Qin Wentian's claws pressed down, Xianxing would be pierced through by thousands of swords. An ancient mirror appeared in his hand. Runic light flashed as immortal energy gushed forth. However, Xianxing's hand stopped there. He didn't activate his immortal weapon. A truly powerful attack could determine life and death in a single breath. At this moment, Qin Wentian only needed a single breath to take Xianxing's life. As long as he released his sword qi, Xianxing would die for sure. He wouldn't have the time to activate his immortal weapon. You dare? Xianyang roared. He stepped forward as his aura towered up into the sky, terrifying to the extreme. Qin Wentian's speed was simply too fast. In terms of pure speed, Xianyang definitely wasn't a match for Qin Wentian. Xianxing wasn't a match either. Hence, when Qin Wentian attacked Xianxing, Xianyang had no way to stop him. Xianxing's cold eyes stared at the figure in the air as he icily spoke. If you really kill me, leaving aside the question of whether you can leave the city of ancient emperors alive, even if you manage to do so, my father would surely hunt you down. Although the elders of the younger generation would not interfere in the grudges between the younger generation and the younger generation, if they really killed the younger generation, revenge was inevitable. Killing Xianxing would definitely anger the mystic Tharch. Everyone stared at this scene as their hearts trembled. Before this, when Qin Wentian was controlling the god's hand, He had already launched a fatal attack against Xianxing. It was the mystic Thearka's immortal sense that obstructed him. Hence, no one could guarantee that Qin Wentian wouldn't kill Xianxing. He might really kill Xianxing, even if the person before him was the son of an immortal emperor. Qing lowered her head and stared below. Cold. It was like other than when she was facing Qin Wentian. She would always be like this. No matter what Qin Wentian wanted to do, she wouldn't stop him. Even if he really wanted to kill Xianxing, the son of an immortal emperor. Keep your immortal weapon. Qin Wentian icily spoke. Xianxing's eyes stiffened as he stared fixedly at the sky. Sword qi gushed forth. Qin Wentian's sharp claws pressed down again. Boundless sword qi penetrated Xianxing's body, causing his hair to flutter wildly as his countenance turned pale. Fine, I will keep it. You won't make such a foolish choice, right? Xianxing kept his immortal weapon as he spoke in a loud voice. The geniuses of the Twin Stars Alliance all moved towards Qin Wentian. As though as long as Qin Wentian really killed Xianxing, they would instantly erupt with power. Qin Wentian's gigantic body continued pressing downwards. Staring at his cold eyes, Xianxing's body trembled slightly. Nervousness, incomparably nervousness. Xianxing's entire body was stretched taut. This was a moment of life and death. No matter if he was the son of an immortal emperor or a supreme genius, if he lost his life, everything would come to an end. Qin Wentian, if you really kill Xianxing, you definitely won't be able to bear the consequences. Xianyang icily spoke. Qin Wentian, don't be rash. I can give up on God's hand. Xianxing took a step back and even promised to give up on God's hand. However, Qin Wentian's body was still pressing downwards. His gigantic body was already right above Xianxing's head. A stifling pressure bore down on Xianxing. Qin Wentian flapped his wings, causing a raging wind to kick up as demonic qi gushed forth. Xianxing's body trembled even more violently as he stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. From now onwards, I will definitely kill anyone who dares to seize God's hand. Qin Wentian howled in rage as a raging wind ravaged the entire space. His wings flapped furiously as he directly dove downwards. Like a bolt of lightning, his silhouette directly vanished from sight. Boom! Xianyang was dumbfounded. The other geniuses were all dumbfounded as they stared at the blood that was fluttering in the air. That was Xianxing's head, directly penetrated by the sword qi. A sharp claw latched onto his head as a myriad of swords pierced through his heart, causing fresh blood to spurt out. Kill. He really killed him. The son of an immortal emperor, Qin Wentian, killed him. He forced Xianxing to give up his immortal ranked weapon, and continued to press downwards. It wasn't because of considerations, but because he wanted to kill Xianxing without unleashing the destructive might of that sword strike. Qin Wentian has been planning to take Xianxing's life from the start. The reason why he held back was because he wanted to use the simplest method to end Xianxing's life. That terrifying sword might has yet to be unleashed. He has been delaying for time. The hearts of the spectators pounded violently. Xianxing's eyes hadn't even closed yet. His body slowly fell downwards. No matter how arrogant he was, no matter how noble his status was, he still died in the city of ancient emperors, losing his life. Qin Wentian really dared to kill Xianxing. Xianyang howled in madness. His body rushed towards Xianxing, leaving behind only a corpse on the ground. His entire body trembled as he clenched his fists tightly. His aura towered up into the heavens, as though he would explode at any moment. His younger brother, Xianxing, actually died in this tempering exercise in the city of ancient emperors. Die. With a roar of rage, Xianyang's fist slammed into the ground, causing it to crumble. He inclined his head and stared at Qin Wentian, who was in the air. A raging wind gusted as sword qi gushed down from the sky, resembling a river of swords from the 9 heavens. The boundless sword might contained a towering killing intent. The claws of the great rock were still there. This sword had yet to be unleashed. Terrifying immortal might gushed forth. Xianyang took out his immortal ranked long spear, exuding boundless killing intent. However, a sword keening filled the air as an incomparably demonic sword manifested from Qin Wentian's body. This sword directly sliced through Qin Wentian's palm, causing his sharp claws to bleed. Droplets of blood dripped onto the sword, causing a terrifying demonic chi to radiate from the sword. Clanging sounds rang out as it radiated boundless immortal light, wanting to tear apart the heavens. The shadow of a great rock could be faintly seen on the body of this sword, exuding an incomparable loftiness, like a true sovereign of the skies. The demon sword once said that it was a great rock in the clouds, hating the fact that the heavens were too low. Right now, the heavens of the immortal realms should be much higher compared to the heavens of particle worlds. It's not only the descendants of the Xian Emperor who have immortal-ranked weapons. Qin Wentian icily spoke. His other hand grabbed the Windrock rune bone as the shadow of a Windrock appeared, enveloping him. At this instant, the terrifying demonic chi and sword chi were so powerful that it caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Xian Yang's rage towered up into the sky. He stared fixedly at Qin Wentian, who was in the air. After Xian Xing died, the grudge between the two of them had already transformed into a life-and-death grudge. However, in Qin Wentian's eyes, when Xian Xing wanted to kill him and snatch away his god's hand, it was already destined that one of them would die. The people of the Twin Stars Alliance didn't make a move. The alliance between the sects in the city of ancient emperors was only a temporary one. Everyone here was a heaven's chosen, the descendants of immortal kings and emperors. But now that a life-and-death battle had occurred, everyone had to consider if it was worth it to interfere or not. Once they interfered, they would also form a life-and-death grudge with Qin Wentian. If it was just Qin Wentian alone, it was still fine. But now, there was the daughter of the Chongqing the Great, Princess Qing. This debt was sufficient to cause everyone to be cautious when they acted. Xianyang didn't act rashly. He stood there with an immortal-ranked weapon in his hand as he stared fixedly at Qin Wentian. Both of them were using immortal-ranked weapons to fight. If they collided, no one could predict the consequences. In that instant, the explosive might even kill him before the immortal sense of his father, the Xian Emperor, appeared. Qin Wentian also didn't move. The two of them stood there in a stalemate, staring at each other. On the other side, Xiao Lingyue walked towards Qing as she spoke. I've always wanted to challenge you to a battle. Even without Qin Wentian in God's hand, this battle was still unavoidable. I, Xiao Lingyue, really want to experience for myself how strong the princess that the Chongqing the Great values the most is. As the sound of her voice faded, the terrifying freezing energy from Xiao Lingyue enveloped the entire space. Qing Er's cold gaze turned over, staring at Xiao Lingyue as a powerful spatial energy circulated around her. Resplendent spatial inscriptions could be seen beneath her feet. Bang! Xiao Lingyue punched out with her fist, causing the space before her to freeze inch by inch. Her speed was extremely fast, wanting to freeze all the experts in front of her to death. However, at the instant she attacked, Qing Er stepped out as spatial inscriptions shimmered beneath her feet. Her silhouette directly vanished, reappearing in another direction. What a powerful spatial energy, able to use the power of space to teleport, creating a terrifying threat. The hearts of the spectators trembled when they saw Qing Er's movements. These two supreme beauties were so powerful that they were all filled with anticipation. Xiao Lingyue coldly snorted. A terrifying ice constellation appeared as her fist light blasted out once more, causing the radius of the ice to grow even wider. However, Qing Er took a step forward. To the shock of the spectators, her body actually penetrated through the tyrannical ice energy, moving towards Xiao Lingyue. Chapter 922. What a powerful spatial energy, traversing through space and ignoring all attacks. This must be immortal law energy. Upon seeing Qing Er directly stepping out from Xiao Lingyue's attack, ignoring all of it, the hearts of the geniuses all trembled. No wonder Princess Qing Er could be ranked number 5 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. Even before Xiao Lingyue, she had already comprehended a trace of immortal law energy, a transcendent force. The immortal realm was a huge threshold because it was a leap, a transformation. For those geniuses at the peak, even if they only comprehended a simple trace of immortal law energy, they would still be able to create terrifying effects. Only to see Qing Er's silhouette penetrated through the attacks and appeared before Xiao Lingyue. Punching out a simple punch, The resplendent spatial laceration energy transformed into resplendent beams of light, as though wanting to sever the space apart. The spectators only saw the beams of light enveloping Xiaoling Yue within. The might of this single punch was so strong that it caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Xiaoling Yue's entire body was enveloped by frost energy as rumbling sounds rang out, freezing the entire space. She stabbed out with her finger, causing an extreme coldness to corrode Qing Er's body, only to see Qing Er slashing out with her palm as a beam of light slashed out, breaking apart the frozen space as it shot towards Xiaoling Yue. Xiaoling Yue's finger pointed towards that beam of sword light, unleashing a terrifying might as the sword light directly exploded apart. Frozen extermination calamity finger. The expressions of the spectators all stiffened when they saw Xiaoling Yue's finger art. She stretched out her jade-like hands as all 10 of her fingers shot out at the same time, as fast as lightning. The instant her finger art was unleashed, the space in front of her seemed to be frozen solid, capable of destroying everything in an instant. At the instant Xiaoling Yue unleashed her frozen extermination calamity finger, Qing Er also stretched out her palms. Resplendent golden light flashed as both her palms blasted out, manifesting a circular golden diagram. Boundless astral light cascaded down on it as the diagram expanded in size, directly blocking the space between the two of them. Xiaoling Yue's frozen extermination calamity finger frenziedly slammed into it, wanting to freeze the entire diagram. However, her attacks were unceasingly sucked into the golden diagram, being minced into pieces by the frenzied spinning of the diagram. The golden diagram abruptly radiated boundless light as it blasted outwards, wanting to destroy everything. This caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble violently. Xiaoling Yue was in danger. These two heavenly geniuses were really crazy. Now that they were fighting in close combat, the danger was undoubtedly very high. The slightest carelessness could lead to serious injuries or even death. How powerful! That's one of Matriarch GD's supreme innate techniques, the immortal slaying diagram. Some geniuses recognized Qing Er's attack as shock filled their hearts. Chongqing the Great's daughter, Princess Qing Er, was an innately born immortal king and has an extraordinary physique. Back then when Chongqing the Great fought for the throne, to protect her, he had to send her away. After he brought her back to the immortal empire, it's rumored that Chongqing the Great doted on her a lot, and even wanted to nurture her as his successor. Hence he sent Princess Qing Er to Matriarch GD's place to cultivate. GD accepted Princess Qing Er as her personal disciple upon seeing her. This wasn't because she was giving face to Chongqing the Great. It was because she truly liked Princess Qing Er. If not, she wouldn't have imparted her secret arts to her. One of the geniuses spoke in a low voice. These descendants of immortal emperors were all extremely knowledgeable, and were extremely familiar with the powerful immortal emperors of the immortal realms. Indeed. What status does GD have in the immortal realms? She has always done things her own way and has a stubborn personality. She wouldn't give face to anyone. If it wasn't for the fact that she liked Princess Qing Er, she wouldn't have accepted the daughter of Chongqing the Great as her personal disciple. How could these people not know who GD was? Princess Qing Er had two immortal emperors standing behind her. How terrifying was that? The immortal slaying diagram radiated a boundless light, capable of destroying everything. In an instant, Xiaoling Yue was enveloped by the threat of death. Xiaoling Yue's attack seems to have been countered. The spectators silently mused. The power of spatial attacks was truly terrifying. No wonder Qing Er was ranked above Xiaoling Yue in the Immortal Ascension rankings. The power of the frozen extermination calamity finger unceasingly froze. Yet it was also unceasingly lacerated by the immortal slaying diagram. Xiaoling Yue gave a shrill cry as her entire body was enveloped by the power of frost, resembling an ice sculpture. Traces of frigid qi emanated from her body, and even though the spectators were extremely far away, they could still feel it. Immortal slaying diagram? Xiaoling Yue let out a long howl. Her constellation shone brilliantly as a powerful freezing energy sealed this space, transforming it into a world of ice. She blasted out with both her palms, directly slamming into the immortal slaying diagram. That terrifying freezing energy seemed to be able to ignore the obstruction of energy, and directly slammed into Qing Air, causing Qing Air's entire body to be corroded by the coldness. However, she was still as cold as ever. Her countenance didn't change at all. She slapped out with her palms as the light from the immortal slaying diagram grew even more intense, capable of destroying everything in this space. After which, Qing Air's palms blasted outwards as the immortal slaying diagram shot out, lacerating everything in its path. Xiaoling Yue's countenance drastically changed as she retreated unceasingly. At the same time, she blasted out with her fists. However, she only saw Qing Air waving her hands as a blinding light flashed. The immortal slaying diagram transformed into countless patterns of light that slashed out, colliding with Xiaoling Yue's attack. Pucci. Fresh blood splashed out as Xiaoling Yue's palms were stained with blood. She stretched out both her palms as boundless freezing energy converged, blocking the attacks of the patterns of light. However, her body was still pierced through by the light, and when the attacks landed, Xiaoling Yue stood in the air. Although she was still as beautiful as ever, there was a sense of poignancy in her. Her entire body was covered in blood, looking extremely miserable. Xiaoling Yue was defeated in the end. Although Princess Qing Air doesn't show her face much, her strength is truly powerful. With the guidance of two immortal emperors, her ranking is above Xiaoling Yue's. The hearts of the spectators trembled when they saw the two supreme beauties in the air. It was truly rare to be able to witness a battle between two heavenly geniuses. Right now, they had no idea how terrifying Namhuang Yinxi's strength was. Zizi. Spatial energy enveloped Qing Air's body. Her body trembled as divine inscriptions appeared beneath her feet. She vanished, only to see a resplendent spatial light abruptly appearing in front of Qing Air. The expression of Qing Air who appeared was ice cold. She lifted her palms and punched out once more. This punch contained the power to pierce through space, and with a flash of light, it directly blasted towards Xiaoling Yue. Victory and defeat have already been decided, yet she still wants to continue fighting. The expressions of the spectators froze. They could see the coldness radiating from this mysterious Princess Qing Air. Her gaze was extremely cold when she stared at Xiaoling Yue, and each of her attacks were merciless. Xiaoling Yue has always been searching for Qing Air because she wanted to defeat her and prove her own ranking in the Immortal Ascension rankings. However, it's possible that Princess Qing Air has never paid attention to Xiaoling Yue before. It's only because of Xiaoling Yue's earlier attack against Qin Wentian that caused this daughter of the Chongqing the Great to be enraged. Although she doesn't say anything, her rage is clearly manifested in her attacks. This punch of Qing Air's was extremely tyrannical. Xiaoling Yue's countenance abruptly changed. She could also sense the anger contained within Qing Air's attack. This wasn't as simple as wanting to defeat her in a spar. Xiaoling Yue retreated explosively while unleashing a terrifying freezing energy. Her frozen extermination calamity finger collided with the spatial fist light, but the finger light was directly torn apart. The terrifying spatial shockwave slammed into her, breaking through her defenses. However, this was merely the beginning. Qing Er's silhouette vanished once more, only leaving behind a beam of spatial light. That beam of light seemed to contain the power of teleportation. Another fist of spatial light blasted out, causing Xiaoling Yue's countenance to change. She continued to defend, and in a short instant, the entire space was filled with golden beams of light. Qing Er's silhouette seemed to appear in every single location. What a tyrannical attack. This seems to be GD's style. It's rumored that GD is extremely proficient in spatial energy, and her attacks are incomparably violent. Many immortal emperors are in awe of her. Xiaoling Yue's aura has already weakened. She's completely suppressed. I'm afraid she's going to be at a disadvantage. As expected, the boundless attacks caused Xiaoling Yue to be incomparably frustrated. When another fist blasted out, she lifted her hand and stabbed out with a finger. However, this time around, Qing Er's silhouette didn't vanish. Instead, she directly rushed towards Xiaoling Yue. The terrifying fist light didn't dissipate. It directly penetrated through everything. Xiaoling Yue roared in rage. A terrifying energy gushed forth from her body, wanting to freeze this entire space. Qing Er's body was enveloped within, but right now, She only had a single fist that could penetrate through everything. Boundless fist light stacked on top of one another, tearing apart the layers of space. Bang! A thunderous sound rang out. Xiaoling Yue's body was about to be penetrated by that fist light. Qing Er's fist directly penetrated through everything, slamming into Xiaoling Yue's body. Xiaoling Yue. At this instant, the spectators were all shocked as they stared at the shocking scene before them. A bright light flashed as another silhouette directly walked out. Qing Er's body instantly froze. The immortal sense of the Xiao Emperor appeared, standing behind Xiaoling Yue. Impudent. Who are you? How dare you be so ruthless? The immortal sense of the Xiao Emperor coldly snorted. Qing Er's gaze was as cold as ever. She stared at him. Daughter of the evergreen immortal emperor, disciple of GD. Scram. You. The expression of the Xiao Emperor froze. He instantly thought of a junior. The beloved daughter of the evergreen immortal emperor. So it's the beloved daughter of the evergreen immortal emperor. However, isn't it a little too rude to have so many elders talking to you? You and Ling Yue are both training in the city of ancient emperors. Why must you be so ruthless? The voice of the Xiao Emperor contained an intense imposingness, causing everyone to be speechless. The battle today had actually attracted the immortal senses of two immortal emperors. In addition, given Qing Er's status, even the Xiao Emperor wouldn't dare to go too far, right? If not, Qing Er would also have her own immortal sense protecting her. At the end of the day, the grudge between Qing Er and Xiaoling Yue would still have to be resolved by themselves. You ask her what she did. Qing Er's expression was as cold as ever. The Xiao Emperor glanced at Xiaoling Yue only to see that right now, Xiaoling Yue's expression was extremely unsightly to behold. Not only was she defeated, she was utterly defeated. Even her father's immortal sense was activated. This was definitely a humiliating battle. Enough. If Ling Yue did anything overboard, I'll apologize on her behalf. As geniuses of the immortal realms, it's fine for us to stop here. Don't let your elders and I have too much enmity. I won't be able to stay in the city of ancient emperors for too long, so I'll bring her away now. In the future, don't do this again. The Xiao Emperor spoke as he brought Xiaoling Yue away, vanishing from this location. Seems like even if the Xiao Emperor appeared, it wouldn't be good for him to bully juniors. Also, given Qing Er's status, it wasn't so easy to antagonize her. If a grudge was formed, given that Xiaoling Yue's strength was inferior to Qing Er, she would definitely be at a disadvantage in the city of ancient emperors. Chapter 923. Xiaoling Yue has left. The geniuses inclined their heads and stared at the sky. The leader of the Xiao sect, Xiaoling Yue, was ranked number 6 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. It wasn't a secret that she was searching for Qing Er in the city of ancient emperors. Many people knew about this. Xiaoling Yue wanted to defeat Qing Er and prove that she shouldn't be ranked behind Qing Er. However, she had lost this battle, and lost miserably. She was struck by Qing Er's terrifying spatial fist, and the protective immortal sense the Xiao Emperor had left on her was activated, allowing her to survive. The Xiao Emperor brought her away from this place. After all, according to the rules of the city of ancient emperors, he couldn't stay for too long. He couldn't interfere with the affairs of the city of ancient emperors. Staring at that cold figure in the air, the daughter of the Chongqing the Great, the disciple of the southern matriarch GD, she actually dared to act. Was all this because Xiaoling Yue had injured Qin Wentian? The relationship between Princess Qing Er and Qin Wentian seemed to be extraordinary. Because of that attack from Xiaoling Yue, Princess Qing Er didn't hesitate to offend Xiaoling Yue to the point of wanting to kill her. At this moment, many people couldn't help but feel curious. Qin Wentian, what was his identity? To think that he was actually worthy of Princess Qing Er's treatment. Sis Qingxian. The more I look at Princess Qing Er, the more I feel that senior brother Qin and Princess Qing Er are a match made in heaven. No wonder senior brother Qin has been searching for her. Their relationship must be very deep, right? Jun Mengchen stared at Qing Er, who dared to kill the daughter of an immortal emperor for the sake of Qin Wentian. He couldn't help but feel gratified for his senior brother. Before this, Jun Mengchen was still thinking about what kind of woman his senior brother would find to be worthy of him. He was even worried that he would be disappointed and see a princess like Xiao Lingyue. But now, all his doubts were gone. He only wished Qin Wentian and the others well. However, at this moment, Qin Wentian was still in a standoff with Xianyang. Qin Wentian's demon sword hummed unceasingly, causing the spectators below to retreat. The spear in Xianyang's hand pierced out with heaven-shattering might, terrifying to the extreme. Both of them didn't dare to be distracted. Their control over their immortal weapons was weak, but the power they could unleash was terrifying. If they didn't go all out, the slightest distraction would give the other party an opportunity to launch a destructive attack. However, the two of them were very clear about the battle over there. Qing'er defeated Xiao Lingyue, and the Xiao Emperor brought Xiao Lingyue away. The people of the Xiao sect didn't interfere at all. That was a battle that Xiao Lingyue had always been looking forward to. In addition, there were many geniuses who joined the Xiao sect not because they had a good relationship with Xiao Lingyue, but because of her status, her beauty, and her talent. When the other legendary Qing'er appeared, not only was her beauty not inferior to Xiao Lingyue's, but also her status. The people of the Xiao sect naturally wouldn't join in the battle against a peak-level beauty like Qing'er. In this battle, the alliance formed by the Xiao sect would most probably crumble apart. In addition to the fact that Qin Wentian had disregarded everything to kill Xianxing, the grudge between him and Xianyang had escalated to the level of a life-and-death grudge. In addition to that, the daughter of the Chongqing the Great, Princess Qing'er, was also involved. The geniuses of the Twin Stars Alliance wouldn't easily join in to deal with Qin Wentian. In such a situation, even though Xianyang was ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, he was still at a disadvantage. Xianyang most probably won't be able to avenge Xianxing, many people silently mused. Qing'er's appearance, in addition to her battle with Xiao Lingyue, as well as Qin Wentian's immortal vanquishing swordplay, had instantly turned the situation around. There's a limit to your strength, right? If I don't kill you today, you won't have a day of peace in the city of ancient emperors. Xianyang finally spoke. Right now, the pressure Qin Wentian radiated was extremely terrifying. In addition to the fact that Princess Qing'er was beside him, it was impossible for him to kill Qin Wentian under such circumstances. Is that so? Qin Wentian laughed. You must have paid a heavy price to unleash that attack, right? Xianyang's countenance was ice cold. So what if I don't kill you today? Even if you don't unleash that attack, it doesn't mean that I will spare you. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, a demonic wind ravaged the area. That destructive might abruptly gushed forth, and Qin Wentian's silhouette was like the wind, appearing before Xianyang. The might of the immortal vanquishing swordplay was infused into the demon sword, and as its sharp claws slashed downwards, the demon sword transformed into a fearsome great rock, emitting a terrifying sword keening as millions upon millions of sword chi gushed forth, gushing towards Xianyang. He actually took the initiative to attack. Everyone's countenances were filled with shock. Xianyang initially wanted to stop, temporarily giving up on Xianxing. However, Qin Wentian didn't spare him, and chose to unleash a destructive attack instead. Roar! Xianyang howled in rage. His long spear pierced through the air as countless ancient mirrors appeared. This spear strike of his manifested a tempest of slaughter, capable of destroying the heavens. Boom! The two forces collided, and in an instant, the destructive tempest engulfed the battlefield. The spectators only saw a beam of light piercing through the skies as the destructive astral wind slammed into their bodies. The spectators all retreated with explosive speed, but even the aftershocks from the collision were too much for them to bear. Another thunderous boom rang out. As dust rose into the air, the demon sword whistled, and when everything dissipated, the spectators only saw a deep crater that was riddled with holes. Two silhouettes could be seen lying on the ground, and these two silhouettes were none other than Qin Wentian, who had reverted to his original appearance. Right now he was lying on the ground, unable to move. His aura was extremely weak, and he no longer exuded the tyrannical aura he exuded earlier. Xianyang naturally wasn't in a good state either. He was also lying on the ground, soaked in blood, and there were sword scars all over his body. Both sides were heavily injured in this clash. Their attacks had far surpassed the limits of their opponent's endurance. Just the destructive shockwaves alone were sufficient to heavily injure them. Not only that, Qin Wentian had to pay the price of immolating his body in order to use the immortal vanquishing swordplay. In truth, his attack was a level higher than Qin Wentian's, and he wasn't injured at all. But even so, the burden on his body was already too great. What an intense battle. It has been a very long time since there was such a battle in the city of ancient emperors. The spectators were all speechless. The main characters of this battle, the number 4, number 5 and number 6 rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings had all participated in it. And in the end, the number 6 ranker, Xiao Lingyue, was injured, and even the immortal sense of her father, the Xiao Emperor, had appeared. The number 4 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xian Yang, was heavily injured by Qin Wentian. As for his younger brother, the number 27 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xian Xing, was killed by Qin Wentian. Such a storm hadn't occurred in the city of ancient emperors for a very long time. This time around, it was triggered by the appearance of the god's hand. No wonder he was so fearless. If it wasn't for Xian Yang and Xian Xing standing in front of him, the Xiao sect would have to pay an extremely heavy price if they tried to seize the god's hand. The geniuses of the Xiao sect stared at the figure of Qin Wentian lying on the ground as their hearts trembled violently. Even for Greed Wolf, his heart was filled with complex emotions. This battle didn't only involve Qin Wentian. Chongqing the Great's daughter, Princess Qing, was also implicated. Not only that, Qin Wentian had defeated the woman he admired, Xiao Lingyue. Only to see that at this moment, Qing had already arrived beside Qin Wentian. She didn't say anything and directly carried Qin Wentian in her arms. Coldly glancing at Xian Yang, a powerful spatial energy enveloped her as her silhouette flickered, directly appearing in the air. After which, she transformed into a series of afterimages as she sped off into the distance. In this world, if one were to say who understood Qin Wentian the most, there was no doubt that the person would be Qing. She was too familiar with Qin Wentian. Even more familiar than she was with herself. From the time when he was young in Chu, to the time when Qin Wentian grew up step by step, she had always been by his side, silently observing him. Other than Qin Wentian's experiences in the immortal realms, she knew everything about Qin Wentian's particle world, including what sort of energy Qin Wentian cultivated. She naturally knew that Qin Wentian was extremely weak now. Back then when Qin Wentian used the immortal vanquishing swordplay, it was she who took care of Qin Wentian until he recovered. This time around, she had no idea how long Qin Wentian would need to recuperate. Qing was very clear that unless there was no other choice, Qin Wentian wouldn't transform into a great rock and use the immortal vanquishing swordplay. During these years, Qin Wentian had only used it twice. The first time was in the Pill Emperor Hall, to save Mo Qingcheng. The second time was when he was in Grand Xia, facing the threat of several celestial phenomenon ascendants from the Qin clan, as well as experts from the Pill Emperor Hall. This was the third time. Hence Qing heart was filled with rage. This was especially so when she saw Xiao Lingyue sneak attacking Qin Wentian. Hence, her killing intent was ignited, not hesitating to kill the daughter of the Xiao Emperor. However, at this moment, the only thing Qing was thinking about was Qin Wentian's injuries. She didn't care about anyone else and directly brought Qin Wentian away. Qin Wentian was the only person in her eyes. Senior brother. Jun Mingchen and Zi Qingxian froze. After which, Zi Qingxian transmitted her voice to Jun Mingchen. Princess Qing, will take care of senior brother Qin. Let's go. Jun Mingchen also knew that it wasn't wise to stay in this place for too long. Hence, he and Zi Qingxian silently left the area. Regardless of the Xiao sect or the Twin Stars Alliance, none of them paid any attention to them. Everyone was still immersed in that battle. Let's go. There's a high possibility that Princess Qing and Qin Wentian are lovers. Someone sighed. This scene caused many geniuses to feel envy and jealousy. From the looks of it, the possibility of them being lovers was the highest. To be able to have such a beautiful and talented woman as a wife, it was truly a joyous thing in life. However, it's rumored that the Chongqing the Great regards this daughter of his the most, and is nurturing her as his successor. If Qin Wentian wants to marry Princess Qing, I'm afraid it won't be so easy. His talent is also extremely terrifying. Today's battle has already proven it. Not only that, he even obtained the god's hand. If his background is also compatible with Qing Er's, the evergreen immortal emperor wouldn't interfere too much. Don't think too much. Qin Wentian killed Xianxing, leaving aside the fact that Xianyang wouldn't spare him. The rage of the Xian emperor isn't something so easy to endure. How long can Qin Wentian live for? Another person spoke, causing the gazes of many to turn to Xianyang. This number 4 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings was also extremely sullen today. He personally witnessed his younger brother being killed, and he was even heavily injured. In the City of Ancient Emperors, this battle was especially intense. In the future, I wonder if there would still be people who would try to snatch the god's hand. But even if they do, it wouldn't be so easy. The hearts of the spectators mused. Being able to witness such a soul-stirring battle today, it could be said that this trip wasn't made in vain. Chapter 924. In the City of Ancient Emperors, Qin Wentian's name began to spread. The daughter of the Chongqing the Great, the daughter of the Shao Emperor, and the 2 sons of the Xian Emperor were embroiled in this storm. Xianxing had also died in battle. This news soon circulated, and several days later, the Immortal Ascension rankings in the City of Ancient Emperors no longer contained Xianxing's name. Qin Wentian's name appeared on the Immortal Ascension rankings. His exact ranking was 100th. There were some who felt that Qin Wentian's ranking was too low. After all, he had personally killed the 27th ranked Xianxing, and he didn't even have the aid of an immortal ranked weapon. Similarly, there were some who felt that Qin Wentian's ranking was too high. He was only at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon, and only used some secret arts to increase his strength by leaps and bounds. This wasn't the strength he should have under normal circumstances, and there would definitely be side effects. These descendants of immortal kings and emperors all understood that this method of breaking the rules of cultivation and allowing stellar martial cultivators to jump levels would definitely have its limitations. Qin Wentian might have to pay a price for this. As for Qin Wentian's true combat prowess, he was still unable to familiarize himself with God's hand at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon. This was why he wasn't able to condense God's hand a second time after being shattered by the Xian Emperor. His strength was also unstable, and even if he borrowed the aid of God's hand, he would only be ranked around 100th. With regards to Qin Wentian's ranking on the Immortal Ascension rankings, there were many voices of dispute. Qin Wentian seemed to be different from the other geniuses. Most probably, even the person who set the rankings didn't know what to do with him. Hence, he was only ranked 100th, and there would definitely be changes in the future. However, Qin Wentian himself had no time to care about this. In fact, he didn't even know anything about it. In the City of Ancient Emperors, there was a mountain range that stretched on endlessly. It was incomparably mysterious, and for those who entered the City of Ancient Emperors, no one dared to say that they had explored the entire place. In the past, there were many geniuses who ventured into the depths of the mountain range, yet they all vanished without a trace. At this moment, on a certain mountain peak, there was a quiet place with steep cliffs and a waterfall. It was like an otherworldly place, free of all worldly disturbances. Surrounded by green peaks, there was a simple house. Outside the house were jagged rocks of strange shapes, and a cool breeze blew gently on the body. On top of a huge boulder, a beautiful figure could be seen calmly sitting there, quietly cultivating. She was like a fairy from a painting, mesmerizing people. After a while, the figure slowly stood up and turned around, looking at the person who was peacefully sleeping on the ground. This beautiful figure was naturally none other than Qing. As for the unconscious man, he was none other than Qin Wentian. Qing walked to the side of Qin Wentian and squatted down. She stared at his serene countenance, handsome and natural, as though he was completely at ease. It was as though after that strike, he wasn't worried at all that something unexpected would happen. It was as though he knew that there would definitely be someone who would bring him away safely. The cold expression on Qing's face gradually softened, as the coldness on her face vanished. A light breeze gusted by, causing her black hair to flutter, brushing past Qin Wentian's face. As she stared at him, many memories of the past flashed in Qing'er's eyes. In her eyes, a rarely seen warm smile actually appeared, exuding a sense of beauty. "Thank you for finding me so quickly." Qing'er's melodious voice resounded. After that, she slowly stretched out her hand. She was somewhat hesitant, but her soft and slender fingers were still moving towards Qin Wentian's face, gently caressing his gentle face. Her smile became even more beautiful and radiant. "Last time, you slept for so long. I wonder how long it will take for you to wake up this time," Qing'er said softly. But at this moment, a pair of clear and bright eyes suddenly opened. Qing'er's fingers trembled slightly, stopping on Qin Wentian's face. The smile on her face also stiffened. As though she suddenly regained her senses, Qing'er retracted her finger from Qin Wentian's face with lightning speed. She instantly stood up, and her expression returned to that icy cold one. Her clear voice rang out, "You're awake." "Qing'er, what are you doing?" A trace of a smile flashed in Qin Wentian's eyes. He stared at the stunning silhouette. His smiling gaze made Qing'er a little nervous. She said, "Checking to see if you're feeling better." As she spoke, she turned around and walked forward. Her back was facing Qin Wentian, as though she didn't dare to look into Qin Wentian's eyes. A strange expression flashed in her beautiful eyes. Her face was also slightly red, but in an instant, she returned to normal, as though nothing had happened. "Qing'er," a voice resounded from behind. Qing'er turned around. Her beautiful eyes no longer showed any abnormalities. However, Qin Wentian didn't say anything. He merely stared at her quietly. The smile in his eyes was as clear as ever. Qing'er noticed that Qin Wentian was staring at her silently. She wanted to turn around, but she only heard Qin Wentian speaking in a low voice. "Qing'er, it wasn't easy to find you. Let me take a few more glances at you." Qing'er turned her gaze onto Qin Wentian. No one could tell what she was thinking from her clear eyes. After that, she spoke in a melodious voice, "Rest well and get well soon." After speaking, she turned and walked back to the gigantic boulder she was on earlier, standing there quietly. Qin Wentian stared at her back as a warm smile appeared on his face. After a long time, he slowly closed his eyes as he circulated the energy in his body. His body felt as though it had been sucked dry. The consumption of energy in that battle back then was simply too terrifying. First, he used God's hand to fight against so many experts. After that, he transformed into a great rock and was heavily injured. Finally, he used the immortal vanquishing swordplay and used the Black Punisher star to injure Xianyang. After injuring Xianyang, all the energy in his body was completely depleted. Luckily, his cultivation base was now higher, and his self-recovery ability was stronger. In addition, as his cultivation base increased, the amplification of the immortal vanquishing swordplay might have decreased, but at the same time, the side effects were also lessened. It wasn't as terrifying as before. Time slowly flowed by. Qin Wentian quietly recovered from his injuries with Qing'er by his side. Right now, Qin Wentian could already move freely. At this moment, he was sitting on a gigantic boulder, cultivating. He had already been sitting there for 10 days, and had yet to open his eyes. At this moment, Qin Wentian's eyes finally opened. There was no sharpness in them, only tranquility and tranquility. The rays of the setting sun shone down, illuminating the entire mountain range with a layer of multicolored light. It was an extremely beautiful sight, and the sound of splashing water could be heard from the waterfall on the opposite side. A peerlessly beautiful figure walked out from the waterfall. Her long black hair cascaded down her back like a waterfall, dripping wet. She was clad in a thin green robe that accentuated her curves perfectly. Under the illumination of the multicolored light, she exuded a saintly beauty, causing Qin Wentian to be somewhat mesmerized by her beauty. Qing'er also discovered Qin Wentian. When she walked over, she saw Qin Wentian's dumbfounded expression. Cold, she stared at Qin Wentian as a peculiar light flickered in her beautiful eyes. After that, she walked past Qin Wentian and walked towards the small house, leaving behind a refreshing fragrance. "What a beautiful scenery," Qin Wentian murmured. A cold wind brushed past. Qin Wentian turned his head and saw Qing'er's silhouette standing there, glaring at him. "Qing'er, You look so beautiful even when you're angry. Qin Wentian stretched his waist as he joked. His skin was truly thick. Could it be that Qing'er would make a move against him? Shameless. Qing'er spat out 2 words, but in the eyes of Qin Wentian, it was extremely pleasing to the ears. Smiling at Qing'er, Qin Wentian casually replied, Qing'er, if you can be like this for the rest of your life, it would be a beautiful thing in the world. Where's Qingcheng? Qing'er's cold voice rang out, causing Qin Wentian to be stunned. He stared at Qing'er in astonishment. He didn't expect that Qing'er would actually say Qingcheng's name at this moment. Seeing the expression on Qin Wentian's face, Qing'er lowered her head and fell into silence. Qin Wentian drew in a deep breath. He stared at Qing'er's expression as he gently spoke. Qing'er, I can't let Qingcheng down, but I won't let you down either. It was rare for Qin Wentian to express his attitude so straightforwardly. He knew that it was time for him to make a promise to Qing'er. Earlier, Qin Wentian told Qing'er that if she could be like this for the rest of her life, it would be a beautiful thing in the world. The first thing Qing'er mentioned was Qingcheng. From this, it could be seen that in Qing'er's heart, she had already regarded Qin Wentian as her lover. Otherwise, not only did she not refute him, she even mentioned Qingcheng. Clearly in Qing'er's heart, she had always been thinking about it. Moreover, although Qing'er didn't speak much, her every action undoubtedly indicated that she was in a relationship with Qin Wentian. She had always been here silently taking care of him, and didn't leave even half a step. Even when she went to the waterfall to take a bath, she didn't avoid Qin Wentian when she came back. To be able to do this, Qing'er had already treated him as the closest person to her. Qin Wentian could clearly sense the gentleness in her every action, as well as the affection behind it. Qin Wentian's voice caused Qing'er to start. She stood there in a daze, as though surprised that Qin Wentian would suddenly say such a thing. After which, she turned and walked back to the room as she spoke in a low voice. You better increase your strength as soon as possible. Qingcheng should have already waited for you for many years. After speaking, Qing'er stepped into the room and didn't come out again. Qin Wentian stared at the room as a bitter smile appeared on his face. Qing'er was still the same. However, was this an agreement, or an agreement? Or was it a tacit agreement? Drawing in a deep breath, Qin Wentian stared at the sky. This time around, he did his best to raise his cultivation base to the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. However, how long more would he need to reach the immortal realm? Was Qingcheng still doing well? In the room, Qing'er quietly lay there, staring at the ceiling in a daze. At this moment, her heart was pounding, and she felt a rare sense of nervousness. Only after a while did her state of mind gradually calm down, only to see Qing'er's beautiful eyes blinking as a warm smile gradually appeared on her face. She slowly closed her eyes, and a faint blush could be seen on her face. Her beauty was so beautiful that it could move one's soul. Sadly, Qin Wentian had no way to enjoy such a beautiful scene. Chapter 925. Qin Wentian spent many days in front of the waterfall, with beauties by his side. Although it was tranquil, he didn't feel lonely at all. Qing'er didn't like to talk as usual. However, when Qin Wentian teased her occasionally, he would notice the subtle changes in her expression. It was a joyful thing, hence he didn't feel lonely at all. Half a year had already passed since the battle. Qin Wentian's body had completely recovered and his cultivation base had advanced a step further, stepping into the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. He was only a single step away from the peak of the celestial phenomenon realm, the 9th level. It was as though he could already faintly see the immortal realm. In the evening, a cool breeze blew gently. Qin Wentian stood before the waterfall, comprehending the innate techniques of his innate techniques. At this moment, a gust of wind gusted by as a gray-colored silhouette flashed past him. Qin Wentian's eyes flickered as he abruptly halted his cultivation. Little Rascal who was beside him also sped towards the void, as though it had discovered something as well. Someone's there. Qin Wentian's silhouette flickered as he soared into the air like a wind rock. He saw a white-robed silhouette standing on top of a rock in front of him. Her thin white robes fluttered in the wind as her long hair fluttered in the wind. That graceful figure was flawless, and just by looking at her back, one could tell that she was an absolute beauty. This caused a strange expression to appear on Qin Wentian's face. Could this be Nam Huangyunxi? Wait, she actually doesn't have any aura at all. Qin Wentian suddenly discovered that he actually couldn't sense her aura at all. Who might you be? Qin Wentian asked. Busy. Her silhouette flickered as she sped forward like a white specter, leaving behind faint afterimages in the air. What a fast speed. Qin Wentian silently mused. After which, Little Rascal's silhouette flickered as it followed after her. A strange expression appeared on Qin Wentian's face as he also moved forward. Behind them, a beautiful figure walked out of the house. Seeing Qin Wentian's figure flickering away, she couldn't help but release spatial energy. She took a step forward and disappeared. Not long after, Qin Wentian and Little Rascal lost track of that person. The speed of that person was simply too fast, like a phantom. Underworld Mountain. Qing'er followed. Seeing the road ahead, her expression changed slightly. Qing, or what kind of place is Underworld Mountain? Qin Wentian asked curiously. The forbidden ground of the city of ancient emperors. There are many geniuses who have entered the depths of the Underworld Mountains, but none of them managed to exit. Up ahead is the entrance of the Underworld Mountains. Qing'er pointed to the front. Qin Wentian took a closer look and found that there seemed to be an arched mountain there, which seemed to isolate the mountain range from the rest of the world, giving off a cold aura. That person entered the Underworld Mountains? Qin Wentian murmured. Whoa. Little Rascal let out a low growl. Qin Wentian stared at him and asked, Little Rascal, what's wrong? Summoning. I can feel the aura of a summoning. Little Rascal's voice was filled with a solemn tone, causing Qin Wentian's expression to stiffen. Little Rascal could feel the aura of a summoning? Let's go in and take a look, Qin Wentian spoke. After which he turned to Qing'er. Qing'er, go back and wait for me. Qing'er cast a cold glance at Qin Wentian. Upon seeing her gaze, Qin Wentian smiled. Let's go in together then. Be careful. As the sound of his voice faded, Little Rascal directly dashed out. Qin Wentian and Qing'er followed closely behind. It's rumored that the Underworld Mountains are also a ruin left behind by an ancient emperor. However, this ancient emperor was extremely ruthless. Up till now, many geniuses have died in the Underworld Mountains, but nobody knows which ancient emperor he was. Yet there are still people who dare to enter the Underworld Mountains. Qing'er explained, as though reminding Qin Wentian. After entering the Underworld Mountains, there seemed to be only a single passageway. The air was filled with a cold and gloomy aura, causing people to feel somewhat cold. Little Rascal's speed slowed down. Its body was trembling slightly, as though it was filled with fear. This was the first time Qin Wentian saw Little Rascal in such a state. He could feel the summoning aura, but he was also extremely afraid. What kind of power was this summoning? A low growl rang out from Little Rascal's mouth. Its body abruptly sprinted forward, rushing towards a canyon ahead. Little Rascal. Qin Wentian could sense the nervousness and impulsiveness in Little Rascal's heart. There was an indescribable force guiding it. It's very dangerous inside. Qing'er reminded when she saw Qin Wentian following behind. Qing'er, you go back first. Qin Wentian spoke again, his countenance turning solemn. Since the Underworld Mountains were known as the forbidden grounds of the city of ancient emperors, there would definitely be an intense danger. However, he couldn't ignore Little Rascal, nor could he place Qing'er in danger. My spatial abilities can bring you away at critical moments. Also, my body is protected by my immortal sense. Qing'er stared at Qin Wentian, shaking her head. Given Qing'er's personality, it was impossible for Qin Wentian to persuade her. Fine. Once you encounter danger, you have to leave immediately. Qin Wentian solemnly instructed. Okay. Qing'er nodded her head. After which, Qin Wentian sped ahead. He could sense Little Rascal's location. Very swiftly, they passed through the canyon. There were many strange-looking ancient mountains here, each of them so tall that they touched the heavens. An extremely cold aura permeated the air. Little Rascal. Qin Wentian continued forward. Inclining his head, he stared at the peak of a lonely mountain, only to see the silhouette of Little Rascal standing there. The night sky gradually darkened, and the silhouette of Little Rascal resembled a lone wolf as it surveyed its surroundings. Bzzz. A gust of wind gusted by. On another mountain, a white-robed figure appeared. Qin Wentian stared at this figure. It was none other than the mysterious woman he met before. Fog suddenly rose up from the mountain range, rising unceasingly, enveloping the entire sky. What's going on? Qin Wentian discovered that even with his powerful eyesight, his vision was greatly obstructed. The entire area seemed to be enveloped by a mysterious black fog. An instant later, when the fog gradually dissipated, Qin Wentian's countenance drastically changed. The scenery in this space had completely changed. Although there were still ancient mountains, they were even darker. Furthermore, the ancient mountains were no longer the same as before. It was as if they had entered a different space in an instant, and they clearly hadn't moved at all. Underworld mountains, Qing'er whispered. Is this the true underworld mountains? Qin Wentian murmured. It seemed that although Qing'er knew that the underworld mountains were a forbidden ground in the city of ancient emperors, she didn't know much about it. When night fell, the true underworld mountains would appear in this mountain range. At this moment, Qin Wentian stared at the foot of the mountain range, and his expression froze. After which he surveyed the underworld mountains and discovered many corpses. The coldness in the air grew colder and colder, as though there was a unique energy present. Qin Wentian's aura began to dissipate, as though it was being stripped away from his body bit by bit. What's going on? Qin Wentian stretched out his hands. The underworld mountains were actually able to forcefully strip away the energy in one's body. He glanced at Qing'er, only to discover that Qing'er had also sensed it. Whoa! Little Rascal let out another long howl. Its body expanded in size, and it was actually able to devour the energy in the air, unaffected by it. Little Rascal! Qin Wentian stared at Little Rascal. At this instant, the white-robed figure abruptly flickered, directly appearing in front of Little Rascal. Qin Wentian's countenance changed as he sped towards the white-robed figure. Sir, who are you? Qin Wentian icily asked. The white-robed figure inclined her head and stared at him. Qin Wentian saw a face so beautiful that it was suffocating. This kind of demonic beauty didn't have the slightest hint of charm. Her eyes were devoid of emotions, yet they contained a terrifying might, as though she was a peak-level expert. There was no aura emanating from her, as though she wasn't a living person at all. Similarly, she wasn't affected by the underworld mountains. Since she had no aura, her energy naturally wouldn't be drained away. Are you a human or a ghost? This was the first time Qin Wentian encountered such an existence. An existence that had no aura, no matter how strong one was. Even if it was the Dongxing Heaven Emperor, although he didn't release his aura, the aura of a human would still exist. Qin Wentian stood in front of her. If he didn't see her with his own eyes, he wouldn't even be able to sense her existence. The gaze of the female shifted away, landing on Little Rascal once more. After which, she directly walked towards Little Rascal's body. A scene that caused Qin Wentian to be horrified appeared. Her body didn't seem corporeal. She actually wanted to fuse with Little Rascal's body. Roar! Little Rascal let out howls of agony as his body struggled violently. Scram! Qin Wentian took out his immortal-ranked long spear and directly pierced towards the female's body. However, the long spear directly penetrated through the body of the mysterious female. There was no effect at all. Spectre. Qin Wentian's countenance grew unsightly. Little Rascal continued howling as his body trembled even more violently. Boom. All the energy in Little Rascal's body erupted forth in an instant. The silhouette of the female trembled violently, as though she was in a state of discomfort. He's afraid of the flames of your bloodline. Little Rascal shouted. The blood in Qin Wentian's body surged as his entire body glowed with a terrifying white flame. He pointed his finger at Little Rascal, and bzzz, a raging wind gusted by. That ghost-like figure directly separated from Little Rascal's body as she coldly stared at Qin Wentian. Little Rascal had always been raised by Qin Wentian using his bloodline. There was also a trace of Qin Wentian's bloodline power in his body. Earlier when he unleashed his full strength, he discovered that this mysterious female was afraid of his bloodline power. That female coldly stared at Qin Wentian, after which she abruptly moved towards Qing'er's body. In just an instant, it felt as though her body was about to fuse together with Qing'er's. Qin Wentian's countenance drastically changed. He pointed his finger out once more, only to see that figure reappearing again. She stood in front of them, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Chapter 926. Netherworld Body. Qing'er stared at the white-robed figure in front of her. She seemed to have heard her master mentioning this ability before. It seemed to be the innate ability of a female immortal emperor from the northern domain. Could it be that this devilishly beautiful maiden had something to do with that great character? A look of bewilderment appeared on Qin Wentian's face. It seemed like Qing'er knew something about this. The silhouette of the white-robed maiden flickered as she vanished from sight. Little Rascal turned his gaze to the horizons before he spoke to Qin Wentian. I can feel a summoning energy growing stronger and stronger. You guys can return first. The countenance of Qin Wentian and Qing'er flickered. The energy in their bodies was slowly dissipating. It was truly dangerous to remain here for too long. Also, now that the space around them had changed, it wouldn't be so easy for them to exit the underworld mountains. That mysterious figure is extremely dangerous. Qin Wentian spoke to Little Rascal. He was worried as well. Bzzz. At this moment, Little Rascal sped towards a certain direction. He rushed into a crevice in the mountain range, and there seemed to be a completely different world within. On both sides of the crevice, there were blood-colored runes engraved on the walls, looking extremely terrifying. The Netherworld maiden also arrived here. She stared ahead as she stepped into the crevice, wanting to barge through it directly. However, the runes on the walls of the crevice lit up, transforming into a terrifying energy that slammed into her, causing her to be bounced back. Qin Wentian stared ahead. He only felt the runic inscriptions on the mountain rampart transforming into a terrifying energy, instantly causing his entire body to tremble violently. After which, a thunderous boom rang out as a towering and terrifying intent manifested in his mind, wanting to kill him. Retreat. Qin Wentian pulled Qing'er along as he retreated. This place was extremely dangerous, but at this moment, Qin Wentian saw Little Rascal walking into the crevice. Boundless runic light shone on him, yet he actually wasn't destroyed. Qin Wentian saw Little Rascal walking step by step towards the depths of the mountain. Although his steps were slow, he didn't stop. This made him feel that there was a mysterious energy calling out to him. That mysterious woman coldly glanced at Qin Wentian and Qing'er. She seemed to be somewhat resentful. After which, her silhouette flickered and disappeared. It seemed like she couldn't enter this place. Let's go back to, Qing'er said in a crisp voice. Qin Wentian nodded. Yes, the little guy seems to have his own destiny. Let's find a way out. The underworld mountain was like an aurora, filled with a mysterious aura. However, it seemed to be an independent space with no way out. Qing'er took out a treasure that exuded an intense spatial energy. It resembled a leaf. Qing'er waved her hands, causing the leaf to enlarge. Both Qing'er and Qin Wentian walked up to it. Momentarily, an intense spatial glow enveloped the two of them. This is a life-saving treasure given to me by my master. This underworld mountain is a mysterious space. Spatial treasures should be able to penetrate it. As the sound of Qing'er's voice faded, a brilliant light flashed as the leaf transformed into a beam of light, shooting towards a certain direction. Qin Wentian closed his eyes. He held onto Qing'er's hand, only to see that Qing'er's hand was exceptionally soft. Her hand trembled lightly, but she didn't evade, allowing Qin Wentian to hold onto her hand. Qin Wentian only felt as though he was shuttling through space. The spatial energy contained within this treasure was too terrifying, causing him to feel somewhat uncomfortable. The two of them held onto each other tightly, and an intense tremor ran through their bodies. They stopped, and when they opened their eyes, Qin Wentian discovered that they had already arrived at the central region of the city of ancient emperors. We're out. What a powerful treasure. Qin Wentian silently mused. being trapped in the underworld mountain. A treasure like this was much more useful compared to the strength of a human. Many people below inclined their heads and stared at the two who suddenly appeared in the air. Strange expressions appeared on their faces as their gazes landed on Qing. Spatial energy. Could it be the number 5 ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Princess Qing? Someone murmured. In the battle half a year ago, there was a high possibility that Princess Qing, and Qin Wentian were lovers. Now that they were holding hands, there was a high possibility that the two of them were Princess Qing, and Qin Wentian. Qing wanted to retract her hand, but Qin Wentian held onto it tightly. She blinked and stared at Qin Wentian. Why are you still not letting go? Oh. Qin Wentian smiled and reluctantly released his hand. He couldn't help but squeeze it a little, causing Qing to stare at him. However, Qin Wentian acted as though nothing had happened. He continued. The underworld mountain is truly mysterious. I wonder what it is exactly. Seeing that Qin Wentian was intentionally changing the topic, Qing could only turn her gaze away, ignoring him. It's been half a year. I wonder how Mengchen and Qingxian are doing. Qin Wentian spoke in a low voice. Are you Qin Wentian? Someone below heard Qin Wentian's voice as they stared at Qin Wentian. That's me, Qin. Qin Wentian nodded. Are you talking about your junior brother Jun Mengchen and junior sister Zi Qingxian? They're not having a good time now. The Twin Stars Alliance is hunting them down everywhere. If it weren't for their luck, they would have been captured. That person spoke. Qin Wentian's expression sank as his gaze turned cold. Sir, do you know where they are now? If I knew, the people of the Twin Stars Alliance would have long since known. But I'm sure they're hiding somewhere. The Twin Stars Alliance today is no longer the same as before. They're now the number 1 power in the City of Ancient Emperors, and their strength is terrifying to the extreme. That person stated. Qin Wentian asked in bewilderment. That battle back then should have weakened their strength a little, right? How can they still be called the number 1 power? Do you still not know? Half a year ago, you unleashed that sword of destruction, and you should have paid a heavy price for it, right? The Twin Stars Alliance has indeed been weakened, and the Xiao sect is on the verge of collapse. However, Xianyang and Xiaolingyue have formed an alliance, and the Twin Stars Alliance and the Xiao sect can be considered to have formed an alliance as well. The number 4 and number 6 rankers of the City of Ancient Emperors rankings have formed their own power, becoming the new Twin Stars Alliance. Many geniuses from the City of Ancient Emperors also joined them, making it even more terrifying. That person continued. Qin Wentian started to worry for Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian. The Twin Stars Alliance and the Xiao sect were both ranked in the top 3. Not only so, the Twin Stars Alliance has also issued a bounty. If anyone manages to find you, Qin Wentian, or your 2 friends, there will be a heavy reward. I'm afraid there are already people reporting this to the Twin Stars Alliance. Another person laughed. I, Qin Wentian, have also issued a bounty. If anyone manages to find my friends, inform me immediately. I'll reward them with 5 immortal ranked weapons, Qin Wentian stated. Really? The person who spoke earlier had a meaningful smile on his face. Qin Wentian nodded. I, Qin, will definitely keep my word. Fine, take out the 5 immortal ranked weapons, and I'll tell you where they are right now. That person spoke. Momentarily, Qin Wentian's eyes gleamed with sharpness as he stared at him. You really know? You and Princess Qing, or even killed Xianxing and heavily injured Xianyang. Do you think I'd dare to lie to you? That person continued laughing. A sinister smile could be seen on his face. Qin Wentian, I advise you to hurry up. If not, if they encounter any mishaps. Be easy. Qin Wentian waved his hands as 5 immortal ranked weapons flew out, flying towards that person. His gaze was incomparably sharp. He knew that this person knew of Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingshuan's whereabouts and wanted to extort him. But so what of it? There were no mediocre people in the City of Ancient Emperors. Everyone here was a descendant of immortal kings and emperors, and this person had no connection with him at all. Straightforward. That person waved his hand, keeping the immortal ranked weapons. After that, he pointed to a direction and spoke. Follow this direction and continue forward. When you see a tower-shaped building, you will see traces of a battle there. Let's hope you can still make it in time if you rush there now. Qing'er, let's go. A wind rock rune bone appeared in Qin Wentian's hand. Instantly, a raging wind enveloped him and Qing'er as they sped towards the direction pointed out by the other party. Traces of a battle. This meant that Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingshuan's whereabouts had already been exposed. Even if the other party didn't say anything, they would know about it soon. Hold on. Qin Wentian had a look of worry on his face. That person didn't lie to Qin Wentian. In the direction Qin Wentian and the others were heading towards, there was a pagoda with many experts gathered in front of it, as though they were spectating a battle. There were 5 geniuses surrounding 2 people, and the battle had already lasted for quite some time. The 2 of them were extremely weak. The female was only at the 8th level of celestial phenomenon, and it seemed that she hadn't broken through for too long. As for the pretty-looking young man, he was only at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon, and both of them were already injured. Of the 5 opponents, 3 were at the 8th level and 2 were at the 9th level. One of them was even a ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Tu Tung. He was extremely powerful. Those who could rank on the Immortal Ascension rankings were all characters who stood at the very peak. Tu Tung was over 3 meters tall and had a gigantic physique. He was bare-chested, and his bronze-colored skin exuded a sense of strength. He was one of the strongest warriors in the Twin Stars Alliance. Still putting up a last-ditch struggle? Tu Tung watched as Zi Qingxian transformed into a terrifying divine falcon. The light of the divine falcon illuminated all 8 directions, and she was still madly clashing against a 9th level ascendant. Tu Tung stepped out as his constellation manifested in the air, manifesting numerous gigantic axes that could cleave the heavens and earth apart. Tu Tung waved his hands as a gigantic golden heaven-cleaving axe manifested. He ferociously cleaved downwards, and in an instant, millions of gigantic axes slashed out, capable of cleaving apart the heavens and earth, capable of destroying everything. Master Tu Tung's heaven-cleaving axe art is said to be able to cleave apart the heavens and earth when cultivated to the extreme. When the experts saw Tu Tung acting, they knew that these 2 wouldn't be able to continue struggling. Initially, Tu Tung thought that the 4 chosen would be able to defeat them very quickly, but he didn't expect that these 2 fellows would still be able to continue fighting after such a long period of time. Zi Qingshuan's countenance turned incredibly unsightly when she saw this scene. The might of this attack caused her heart to tremble. A shrill cry rang out as the countless divine falcons flew towards the heaven-cleaving axe, slashing apart one after another. A gigantic golden flame divine falcon appeared, blocking in front of the gigantic axe. However, Tu Tung's constellation continued blasting downwards as the gigantic axe continued cleaving downwards, directly cleaving apart the divine falcon. Pooh! Zi Qingshuan's countenance turned pale as she directly coughed out a mouthful of blood. Her body was flung through the air as her aura grew increasingly weak. Senior sister! Jun Mengchen roared in rage. However, with 3 8th-level ascendants ganging up on him, he couldn't even take care of himself. How could he help Zi Qingxian? Chapter 927. Jun Mengchen was in a state of rage. The clear sky worldly diagram shone brightly in the air as his body was clad in king armor. Each of his attacks contained the aura of a king, borrowing the power of an ancient king. However, he was currently surrounded by 3 8th-level ascendants. In the city of ancient emperors, all of them were descendants of immortal kings and emperors. Their cultivation arts and innate techniques were all extremely powerful, and it was already extremely difficult for them to jump levels to fight, let alone fighting against 3. Jun Mengchen's roar shook the heavens, but he still couldn't break free from the encirclement of the 3. He was being suppressed by them, and there was also the 9th-level ascendant who fought against Zi Qingxian earlier. Tu Tung walked step by step towards the injured Zi Qingxian. Every step he took caused the earth to tremble. When he saw the ruthlessness in Zi Qingshuan's eyes, he couldn't help but to speak coldly. It's best not to borrow the power of a divine weapon. I won't take your life, I only want to capture you. But if you borrow the power of an immortal weapon, the consequences would be unimaginable. Zi Qingshuan's beautiful eyes flickered as her expression turned incredibly unsightly. The strength of the two of you isn't bad. Being able to endure for so long is truly impressive. But no matter how much you struggle, it's useless. Just leave with me. I won't torture such a beauty like you. Tu Teng's silhouette flickered as he moved closer to Zi Qingshian. Zi Qingshuan's body flashed once more, but Tu Teng only snorted coldly and blasted out with his palms. His palms were as sharp as a giant axe, directly grabbing onto Zi Qingshuan's body and lifting her up. If you continue to be dishonest, don't blame me for being ruthless to women. Tu Teng coldly spoke. After which, he turned to Jun Mingchen and spoke to the people beside him. Quickly capture him. 5 of you bullying 2 people a level lower than you. Don't you feel any shame? At this moment, a faint voice drifted out from the crowd. It seemed that this voice belonged to a genius who was spectating from the side. It's best not to interfere in our matters. Tu Teng's gaze swept over, staring at the person who spoke. This person was a slender and handsome young man. His countenance was calm, but his eyes gave off a demonic feeling. It was as though his eyes could revolve, resembling a whirlpool, causing the gazes of others to be sucked into it. Zi Qingshian was captured by Tu Teng. She stared at the person who spoke as a strange light flickered in her eyes. She actually recognized this person. Also, she was somewhat taken aback that this person would actually step out to speak. The silhouette of the young man who spoke flickered as he directly entered Jun Mingchen's battlefield. His eyes grew even more terrifying, exuding a demonic aura, akin to a pair of eyes of reincarnation. With a single glance, the 3 geniuses surrounding Jun Mingchen all felt countless scenes flashing through their minds. Their attacks involuntarily faltered. Be careful of his eyes. Tu Teng roared, his voice shaking everyone's hearts. The 3 of them immediately closed their eyes, but the scene in their minds remained the same, as if they had fallen into an illusion. The person who attacked was actually Hua Taishu. Boom! Jun Mingchen seized the opportunity and blasted out with a chaotic World King fist, directly blasting one of them through the air. He then dashed towards Tu Teng as he roared in rage, "Release my senior sister!" Tu Teng swept his gaze over to Jun Mingchen before turning his gaze onto Hua Taishu. His gaze was still as demonic as ever, and the 2 8th-level ascendants turned silent under his gaze. Tu Teng, you haven't captured him yet. At this moment, a few more figures arrived. One of them was a genius of the Shao sect, an expert on the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xia Qianhan. There's still one more. Tu Teng stared at Jun Mingchen as he spoke. What's the point of struggling? The disparity between us is too great. Even if you have helpers, they are merely at the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. They can't threaten me at all. Release them. At this moment, a cold voice drifted over. Tu Teng furrowed his brows. After which, he saw a hurricane gusting by as 2 silhouettes appeared in the air. It was a pair of immortal companions. Senior brother, Jun Mingchen called out. The countenances of Tu Teng, Xia Qianhan, and the other geniuses of the Twin Stars Alliance turned heavy. Qin Wentian and Princess Qing had appeared. This matter was going to be troublesome. Qing was ranked number 5 on the Immortal Ascension rankings and had defeated Xiao Lingyue before. Release them. Qin Wentian stared at Tu Teng as he coldly spoke. Tu Teng stared at the sharpness in Qin Wentian's eyes as a wild light gleamed in them. He then spoke. Qin Wentian, I heard that you've cultivated the God's hand. I really wish to experience it for myself. Can you grant me some guidance? I'll grant you your wish. As the sound of Qin Wentian's voice faded, cracking sounds rang out. His body abruptly expanded in size as resplendent runic light circulated around him. His palms shone with a dazzling light as a terrifying aura gushed forth. The god's hand appeared, exuding an indomitable aura. Qin Wentian expanded his body so that the god's hand would be more compatible with his palms. You guys help me guard her. Tu Teng passed Zi Qingshian to Xia Qianhan and the others. A sharp sword was pressed against Zi Qingshuan's neck. Xia Qianhan then spoke to Tu Teng. We should retreat now. No, how can I be satisfied if I don't experience the might of the god's hand? Tu Teng released his constellation as he stepped out, staring straight at Qin Wentian. Boom. only to see Two Tongues stepping out as he blasted out with the heaven-splitting axe art. A beam of light descended from the skies, capable of splitting the heavens and earth apart. Boundless axe light slashed towards Qin Wentian, wanting to cleave Qin Wentian into two. Qin Wentian abruptly lifted his palms and blasted out. A moment later, a terrifying gigantic palm imprint blasted towards the heaven-splitting axe, directly destroying it. At the same time, Qin Wentian's silhouette was like the wind as he grabbed out with his palms. An incomparably gigantic palm imprint shone with boundless runic light as a deafening boom rang out, incomparably suppressive. Just a single strike had destroyed Two Tongues' confidence. His countenance turned ashen as boundless astral light from his constellation enveloped him. He spun in the air as the runic light slashed out once more. However, that gigantic palm imprint directly destroyed everything as it slammed towards him. Two Tongues roared in rage and blasted out with both his palms. However, the star-seizing palm imprint blasted towards him. With a thunderous boom, Two Tongues felt as though his entire body was about to explode. It was unknown how many bones in his body were broken. Qin Wentian's silhouette whistled through the air as he stabbed out with God's hand. This finger pierced through the air, directly piercing into Two Tongues' sturdy body. At this instant, boundless sword qi gushed forth from Two Tongues' body. A miserable scream rang out as Two Tongues' body slammed into the ground. Although he wasn't directly killed, his aura was extremely weak. It was as though all his internal organs had been destroyed. What a powerful ultimate art! Qin Wentian's cultivation base has already broken through to the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. No wonder he's so terrifying. Two Tongues is also a ranker on the Immortal Ascension rankings, yet he couldn't even withstand a single strike. The spectators felt their hearts trembling. This was too powerful. This attack by Qin Wentian had almost taken away half of Two Tongues' life. Evidently, Two Tongues was enraged when he saw Zi Qingxian in his hands. In this case, Two Tongues would need at least a year to recuperate in the city of ancient emperors. God's hand, a long-lost ultimate art. Back then when Qin Wentian fought against Xian Yang and the others, many people here didn't manage to witness it. Now that they personally witnessed how powerful God's hand was, it would be a lie if they said they didn't feel an urge to snatch it away. Who wouldn't want such an ultimate art? Hua Taishi was also slightly taken aback. He stared in bewilderment at Qin Wentian and Qing. The two of them came from particle worlds and now, they were already rising up in the city of ancient emperors. Qin Wentian's attacks had always been extremely powerful. And now, in addition to the rumored God's hand, he was even stronger. At this moment, Qin Wentian turned his gaze onto Xia Qianhan. His eyes gleamed with sharpness as he icily spoke, "Release her. If you want her back, I'm afraid you have to follow me to the Twin Stars Alliance." Xia Qianhan held Zi Qingxian hostage as he stared at Qin Wentian. When he saw Qin Wentian's strength, he felt extremely unhappy in his heart. Back then when Qin Wentian first joined the Shao sect, he couldn't even be bothered with Qin Wentian. But now, with Qin Wentian's strength in addition to God's hand, he could already defeat him. "If you don't release her today, I'm afraid you won't be able to leave this place alive." Qin Wentian spoke. "Are you going to joke around with her life?" Xia Qianhan stared at Zi Qingxian. "If anything happens to her, you will have to pay with your life." Qin Wentian stepped out, as well as Qing Er. The two of them walked towards Xia Qianhan and the rest, and every step they took caused the hearts of Xia Qianhan and the rest to tighten. "Release her and I guarantee you all will leave. I've already revealed myself. If Xianyang wants to find me, he can do so anytime. If the Twin Stars Alliance still dares to use such despicable methods, I, Qin, will definitely slaughter them all." Qin Wentian coldly spoke. Nobody doubted his words. Daring to kill the people of Xianxing in public, Qin Wentian had already proven his madness. Boom. Another step was taken. Qin Wentian and Qing walked side by side, giving Xia Qianhan an immense pressure. Should he release her or not? Do you really not care about her life or death? A sharp blade had already left a line of blood on Zi Qingshuan's neck. Is this how the geniuses of the Twin Stars Alliance act? Qin Wentian laughed. If I allow you to capture my teacher and bring her to the Twin Stars Alliance, who knows what would happen? I, Qin, will never agree to it. If you want to fight to the death, I'll exchange my life for yours. Xia Qianhan's entire body tensed up as her aura gushed forth frenziedly. Qin Wentian and Qing got closer, only to see a terrifying might radiating from Qin Wentian's hands. God's hand gleamed with a supreme spear light, while Qing irradiated a fearsome spatial energy. Qingxian, if you die, I will definitely make them accompany you in death. The wings behind Qin Wentian flickered, as though he was about to launch an attack of death. Zi Qingxian stared at Qin Wentian as she spoke. Make your move. Xia Qianhan stared fixedly at Qin Wentian's God's hand, his heart pounding. I will release her. Xia Qianhan's countenance turned ashen. Upon seeing Qin Wentian lifting his God's hand, he finally relented. But you have to dissipate the energy of God's hand first. I agree. Qin Wentian's voice rang out as he directly dissipated the energy of God's hand, returning it to normal. Upon seeing this scene, Xia Qianhan also released Zi Qingxian. He didn't dare to risk his life. Qin Wentian's identity had already been exposed. If he wanted revenge, Xianyang would naturally come looking for him. Although he was unhappy with Qin Wentian, there was no need for him to risk his life. Chapter 928. Zi Qingxian broke free from Xia Qianhan's control and walked towards Qin Wentian. She didn't say anything, but when she stared at Qin Wentian, her gaze flickered with a strange light. Are you all right? Qin Wentian asked. Just some minor injuries, nothing serious. Zi Qingxian shook her head. She glanced at Qing, who was beside Qin Wentian before walking to Qin Wentian's side. Qin Wentian swept his gaze over to Xia Qianhan and the others, his eyes gleaming with sharpness as he coldly spoke. Scram. Xia Qianhan's aura fluctuated as an intense light flickered in his eyes. He wanted nothing more than to fight it out with Qin Wentian. Although he didn't have much of a chance against Qin Wentian, who had the God's hand, Qin Wentian had already dissipated the energy of God's hand. It was unknown if he still had the ability to condense God's hand a second time. At the very least, he could only condense it once before the Xian Emperor shattered it. But now, not only was Qin Wentian here, there was also Princess Qing. The number 5 ranker of the Immortal Ascension rankings wasn't someone he, Xia Qianhan, could win against. Bring Tu Ting along, let's go. Xia Qianhan coldly spoke. After which, someone lifted Tu Ting's body as the people of the Twin Stars Alliance departed. They could only return to inform Xianyang and Xiaolingyue before making any further plans. After all, only 2 people from Qin Wentian's group had the strength to contend against them. Xianyang was ranked number 4 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, and could fight against Princess Qing. Xiaolingyue could fight against Qin Wentian, who had the God's hand. There were still many other powerful geniuses from the Twin Stars Alliance. Since they had appeared, there was no need to be anxious. Unless Qin Wentian risked his life every time, he wouldn't have taken so long to appear again. Naturally, what was unexpected was that Qin Wentian's cultivation base actually broke through, stepping into the 8th level of celestial phenomenon. After the Twin Stars Alliance's members left, there were still quite a few geniuses gathered around to watch the show. Qin Wentian and Princess Qing seemed to be inseparable from each other the entire time. Just as everyone had guessed, they were a couple. Senior brother Qin, fortunately you arrived in time, Jun Mingchen said. Qin Wentian shook his head and said, if it weren't for me, Xianyang wouldn't have caught you. How can you be blamed for this? Since we came to the city of ancient emperors together, we naturally have to share weal and woe together. These Xian brothers are too much of a bully. Back then, you didn't do anything wrong in killing Xian Xing. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the same. Now that I'm being hunted by Xianyang, I can only admit that I'm weaker than him. But when I grow stronger in the future, I will definitely make them regret this. Jun Mengchen felt extremely unhappy. His cultivation base at the 7th level of celestial phenomenon was still too weak when compared to the geniuses at the peak of the Twin Stars Alliance. After all, the experts in the Twin Stars Alliance were as common as clouds, and there were many rankers on the Immortal Ascension rankings. For example, Tu Ting could easily defeat Zi Qingxian. Alright. At this moment, Jun Mingchen turned and stared at Hua Taishu. I haven't thanked you yet. Back then in the Eastern Sage Immortal Palace, we could be considered opponents. I didn't expect you to help us. Qin Wentian glanced at Hua Taishu. He also didn't expect Hua Taishu to help them. Although the grudges between them could be considered resolved with a smile, it was still a favor for Hua Taishu to help them. Many thanks. Qin Wentian also spoke. If I encountered such a situation, you would have helped me as well, right? Hua Taishu casually replied, causing Qin Wentian to start. Given the complicated relationship between him and Hua Taishu, if Hua Taishu was surrounded, there was indeed a high possibility that he would have helped him. However, if it wasn't for Hua Taishu's question, he wouldn't have thought of this. Right now we already have 5 people. Not only that, we also have senior sister-in-law, ranked number 5 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. Why don't we establish a sect as well and strengthen ourselves to contend against the Twin Stars Alliance? Jun Mingchen smiled as he glanced at Qin Wentian and Hua Taishu. Senior sister-in-law? Qin Wentian started. After which, he only saw Jun Mingchen rubbing his head in a simple and honest manner as he stared in the direction of Qing. Qing blinked, but her expression remained cold, as though she hadn't heard Jun Mingchen's words. Senior brother Qin, what do you think? Xianyang and Xiao Lingyue were able to establish the Twin Stars Alliance. You and senior sister-in-law's strength isn't any weaker compared to the two of them. If we establish our own power, we might be able to surpass the Twin Stars Alliance and let them continue to be arrogant. Jun Mingchen unhappily spoke. That's not a bad suggestion. I heard that there are many ancient ruins in the city of ancient emperors. If we have many experts working together, our chances of obtaining good fortune would be much higher compared to fighting alone. What made Qin Wentian surprised was that Hua Taishu actually didn't have any objections and agreed with Jun Mingchen's suggestion. Qingxian, do you think so as well? Qin Wentian asked Zi Qingxian. Don't worry about it. Even if we don't succeed, we still have 5 people. In the future, when we all break through to the next level, even if there's no one else joining us, we would still be able to become one of the strongest powers in the city of ancient emperors, Zi Qingxian replied. Right now, Princess Qing was at the 9th level of celestial phenomenon. Qin Wentian, Zi Qingxian and Hua Taishu were at the 8th level, and Jun Mingchen was at the 7th level. They would be staying in the city of ancient emperors for a very long time, and there was even a possibility that they would attempt to break through to the immortal realm. At that time, the strength of the 5 of them would definitely be different. Qing, are you willing? Qin Wentian turned his head and stared at Qing. Is seeking her opinion. You can decide. Qing calmly replied, her words causing Jun Mingchen to laugh. Since senior sister-in-law has already said so, senior brother Qin, there's no need to hesitate any longer. Okay then, the 5 of us shall establish a sect. But how should we name it? Qin Wentian stared at them as he asked. Qingxian and I will listen to senior brother, and senior sister-in-law will definitely support senior brother Qin as well. Why don't we name it the Qin sect? It's simpler, and there's no need for those fancy names. Senior brother Qin shall be the sect leader. Hua Taishu, what do you think? Jun Mingchen casually spoke. I have no objections. Hua Taishu calmly replied. It's decided then. Let's name it the Qin sect. Now let's choose the location of the sect. How about the God Extermination Palace? A teasing expression appeared on Jun Mingchen's face. Back then when they first came to the city of ancient emperors, the God Extermination Palace wanted to bully them. Now it was a good opportunity for them to take down the God Extermination Palace. There's no longer any meaning in dealing with the God Extermination Palace. Mingchen, now that the Twin Stars Alliance has merged with the Xiao sect, have they decided on the location of their sect as well? Qin Wentian asked. No, Xianyang and Xiao Lingyue are still guarding their respective locations. It's just that the Twin Stars Alliance will be the main force, and the Xiao sect will have lesser people stationed there, Jun Mingchen replied. In that case, let's choose the Xiao sect, Qin Wentian spoke, his words causing Jun Mingchen's eyes to gleam with sharpness. Directly attack the Xiao sect? Right. Jun Mingchen nodded. Let's head to the Xiao sect now. The 5 of them left as soon as they spoke, directly heading towards the location of the Xiao sect. The experts in the surroundings all gleamed with sharpness. Were these 5 crazy fellows? No matter how strong they were, directly attacking the Xiao sect? Although the Xiao sect didn't have many people stationed there were still tens of geniuses from the city of ancient emperors. Did the 5 of them really want to attack the Xiao sect? Although Princess Qing was ranked number 5 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, she shouldn't be that powerful, right? Let's go and take a look. If they can really take down the Xiao sect, I don't mind joining the Qin sect and fighting together with them against the Twin Stars Alliance. In addition to Qin Wentian, there are already 2 beauties in the Qin sect. They aren't in any way inferior to Xianyang and Xiaolingyue. The experts all followed after them. The news soon circulated, and more experts headed towards the location of the Xiao sect. Although the Xiao sect had already merged with the Twin Stars Alliance, the Xiao sect's location was still there. It had become a branch of the Twin Stars Alliance, and the old general of the Xiao sect, Greed Wolf, was in charge of it. At this moment, Greed Wolf was sitting in a cultivation ground, cultivating. The rankings of the Immortal Ascension rankings in the City of Ancient Emperors changed frequently. Although his position was at the top, it wasn't very stable. He had to constantly raise his strength and step into the Immortal Foundation realm as soon as possible. The sound of wind drifted over. Greed Wolf opened his eyes only to see a silhouette appearing in the air before him. That person spoke to Greed Wolf. Greed Wolf, Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian have already appeared. It's said that Leng Yu has already sent people to capture them. Should we go and take a look? There's no need to care about such a small matter. Leng Yu will naturally have her own methods to deal with this. There's no need for us to bother about it. Greed Wolf faintly spoke. That person nodded, but at this moment, a raging wind gusted by from afar. That genius turned his gaze over as he furrowed his brows. Over there were 5 silhouettes that didn't seem to be from the Xiao sect. At this moment, he saw Qin Wentian and his group. His countenance changed as he spoke. Greed Wolf, they're here. Ooh, Leng Yu? Greed Wolf asked. It's Qin Wentian and his group. That genius mumbled. After that, Greed Wolf's silhouette flickered as he soared up into the air. With a single glance, he saw the 5 approaching experts. He then roared. Old friends have come to visit. Everyone, stop what you're doing. His voice rang out, echoing through the entire Xiao sect. After that, numerous figures soared up into the air, and in the blink of an eye, the geniuses of the Xiao sect all appeared as they stared ahead. When Qin Wentian and his group arrived outside the Xiao sect, they halted their steps and stared at the geniuses from afar. Greed Wolf stepped out and spoke in a clear voice. Qin Wentian, do you want to return to the Xiao sect? Qing'er, I'll be the main attacker. You protect me while I attack. Taishu, Mengchen, Qingxian, you guys clean up those we injured. Don't let them crawl back up. Qin Wentian immediately spoke. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out, and in an instant, his body expanded to several meters in size. God's hand appeared once more as tyrannical runic light flashed, radiating boundless energy. Boom, boom, boom. The geniuses all released their constellations when they saw Qin Wentian, and his group didn't waste any words and immediately prepared to attack. For a moment, a terrifying aura shook the heavens and earth, engulfing this entire space. Left. Qin Wentian spoke. A powerful spatial energy enveloped the 5 of them, after which, a bright light flashed as they vanished from their original location, reappearing in front of 2 geniuses from the Xiao sect. Hua Taishu stood in front as his eyes of samsara bloomed. Instantly, the 2 of them were immersed in a strange scene. Chapter 929. Qin Wentian's samsara eyes instantly caused the 2 of them to sink into an illusionscape. They instantly sensed the existence of the illusionscape, and their powerful wills guarded their hearts and minds, wanting to break free. However, they only saw Qin Wentian's God's hand directly appearing before one of them. The terrifying might contained within God's hand could only be described as terrifying. With a thunderous boom, one of the geniuses was directly flung through the air. The other person hurriedly retreated. The other geniuses all rushed over to aid him, only to see Qing Er standing there with a wave of her hand. A moment later, a spatial barrier appeared in front of her, as though wanting to isolate this entire space. Break! Greedwolf roared in rage. The geniuses all attacked at the same time, wanting to shatter the spatial barrier. But at this moment, a terrifying spatial light radiated from Qing Er. Her palms stretched out once more as the immortal slaying diagram appeared, rapidly expanding, transforming into an incomparably gigantic diagram that slashed outwards. The boundless attacks were all instantly destroyed by the immortal slaying diagram. No one was able to break through it. Qin Wentian's god's hand blasted towards another genius. That genius had no way to defend against the star-seizing grand palm imprint of God's hand. When the palm blasted out, his entire body felt as though it was being suppressed. With a thunderous boom, he was forcefully slammed into the ground, causing rumbling sounds to echo out. What a tyrannical attack! Even Tu Tung of the Immortal Ascension rankings couldn't withstand a single strike from God's hand. I'm afraid there aren't many geniuses who can withstand an attack from Qin Wentian. From afar, those who followed Qin Wentian here to spectate felt their hearts trembling when they saw two geniuses instantly losing their combat prowess. Qin Wentian was the main force, while Princess Qing Er was using her spatial energy to restrain him. These two absolute experts were simply too terrifying when they joined forces. Hua Taishu took the initiative to step out. Terrifying illusionscape energy directly affected the geniuses of his opponents. His constellation was released to the extreme, and his samsara eyes were omnipresent. The geniuses all felt as though they had fallen into an illusionscape, and just as they struggled free from it, a new one would appear. Boom! Qin Wentian's body expanded once more, becoming a 100-meter-tall giant. Stepping out, God's hand slammed down as an incomparably huge violet gold ancient bell descended from the sky. With a deafening boom, this ancient bell radiated boundless tribulation might that swept out in all directions, causing the hearts of the experts here to tremble as their wills became unstable. Bang! Yet another palm imprint slammed down. Another expert was sent flying, unable to resist at all. Qin Wentian was like an ancient god of war, standing tall between the heavens and earth. Not only that, he could attack unrestrainedly. Every single attack that came his way would be instantly dissipated by Qing Er's overwhelming strength. In addition to Hua Taishu's illusory arts, he was able to sweep through everything in his path. At this moment, the geniuses of the Shao sect felt extremely weak and frail. They were the descendants of emperors, but at this moment, they were like ants that could be squashed by Hua Taishu. Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian were at the back, cleaning up the battlefield. For those who were injured by Qin Wentian, they would immediately descend and continue to attack, directly causing their opponents to lose their combat prowess. Naturally, they would also seize all their interspatial rings, not holding back at all. In just a short period of time, over 10 experts were defeated, losing their combat prowess. This scene caused the hearts of the spectators to tremble. Greedwolf's countenance turned ashen when he saw his comrades falling one after another. His eyes flickered with a destructive coldness as he inclined his head and stared at the sky. His terrifying constellation was unleashed to the extreme as an incomparably cold hell direwolf appeared in the air. Its entire body was covered in hellfire, and its eyes gleamed with a terrifying blood-red light. This hell direwolf's body grew larger and larger, to the point where it was even more terrifying compared to Qin Wentian. Kill! Greedwolf howled. This hell direwolf spat out fearsome hellfire, wanting to incinerate everything as it lunged towards Qin Wentian and his comrades. Qing Er's spatial energy was unleashed to the extreme as boundless runic light flowed around her, interweaving into a gigantic golden screen of light that blocked the hellfire. After which, the hellfire was swallowed into the void. Roar! A heaven-shaking howl of rage rang out. Greedwolf stood in the air, as though he had fused as one with his hell direwolf constellation. He punched out with both his fists as the heavenly direwolf howled in rage. Countless heavenly direwolves slammed into the golden screen of light, causing rumbling sounds to echo out, causing the golden screen to shatter unceasingly. Greedwolf was ranked number 12 on the Immortal Ascension rankings, and his combat prowess was naturally extremely strong. The other experts all supported Greed Wolf when they saw him going berserk. They couldn't allow Qin Wentian and his comrades to gain the upper hand. Qing Heir, there's no need to defend. Let's attack together. Qin Wentian spoke. Terrifying rumbling sounds rang out as his body expanded once again, growing to a height of 800 meters, resembling a supreme divinity. Qing Heir retracted her defenses. Qin Wentian blasted out a gigantic palm imprint, wanting to destroy everything. At the same time, Qing Heir stepped out as a terrifying palm imprint blasted out towards Greed Wolf. Qing Heir's silhouette flickered as she directly vanished from sight, moving towards one of the geniuses. When that genius saw Qing Heir walking over, he frenziedly attacked. However, a mysterious spatial energy enveloped Qing Heir's body. She stepped out, directly passing through his attacks and punched out with a simple punch, tearing apart everything. With a boom, that genius felt as though his body was about to be torn apart as fresh blood gushed out. He had no way to defend against Qing Heir's strength. Qin Wentian's god's hand blasted out towards Greed Wolf in the air. As this palm blasted out, numerous great rocks appeared in the air, directly destroying the incoming heavenly wolves. I'm ranked number 12 in the Immortal Ascension rankings. With the Hell Heavenly Wolf protecting me, how can I lose to an 8th level ascendant? Greed Wolf's countenance was ice cold. He stepped out as the Hell Heavenly Wolf howled in rage, wanting to devour the heavens and earth. Greed Wolf punched out with his fist. The Hell Heavenly Wolf appeared within his fist light as it blasted towards Qin Wentian. It was unknown how terrifying this attack power was. Qin Wentian's palms glowed with a blood-colored demonic light as he executed the 3-level battle art. God's hand blasted out with the heaven-suppressing star-seizing palm as a supreme suppressive might gushed forth, capable of suppressing all living beings. God's hand circulated with boundless runic light, containing the power of the great Tao as it directly collided with the Hell Heavenly Wolf. The entire sky trembled violently. Qin Wentian's palm had already undergone the refinement of the 10,000 Laws record, and was incomparably tyrannical compared to the past. Now that it was augmented by the secret art of God's hand, its might was incomparably terrifying. Under the might of this single strike, even the sky seemed to be on the verge of shattering. The gigantic body of the Hell Heavenly Wolf actually began to crumble apart under the might of this attack. Boom! The terrifying suppressive might blasted into Greed Wolf, causing him to groan in misery as he was flung through the air. Qin Wentian grabbed out with his palms as the talons of a great rock appeared, directly grabbing hold of Greed Wolf and smashing him into the ground. Rumble! A deep crater appeared as Greed Wolf's body was forcefully smashed into the ground. At the same time when Qin Wentian defeated Greed Wolf, Qing Heir also dealt with 2 other geniuses. Although Qin Wentian told her to fight by herself, she still stood by Qin Wentian's side, blocking the attacks of the other geniuses for Qin Wentian. After all, Qin Wentian's body was too gigantic, it was very easy for him to be hit. After suppressing Greed Wolf, Qin Wentian's body retreated several meters back. The wings of a great rock flashed as his silhouette flickered, directly vanishing as he flew towards a certain person. Retreat! That person roared. Regardless of Qing Heir or Qin Wentian, they had no way to contend against him. The 2 of them had absolute superiority in terms of strength and could suppress any one of them. Such a battle wasn't something that could be turned around just by relying on numbers. Rumble! Numerous golden silhouettes bore down, directly suppressing this entire space. Qin Wentian's silhouette descended, and with a lift of his hands, he stabbed out with God's hand. A fearsome spear light swept through everything, destroying everything in its path. Although the spear light didn't directly penetrate into his opponent's body, the impact caused his bones to shatter and his internal organs to be heavily injured, causing him to lose all combat prowess. Go! The other geniuses all retreated in different directions. There was no longer a need for this battle to continue. Qin Wentian's attacks were extremely ruthless. Although he didn't use killing moves, those who were struck by him were all heavily injured. In addition to Jun Mengchen and Zi Qingxian cleaning up the battlefield, these geniuses all ended up in extremely miserable states. Qing Turned her gaze to Qin Wentian only to see Qin Wentian speaking. Let them leave. Complete victory. The spectators outside the Xiao sect all felt their hearts trembling when they saw this battle. Before this, Qin Wentian was ranked number 100 on the Immortal Ascension rankings. After this battle, he would most probably continue to climb up. If he borrowed the power of God's hand, he would already be able to defeat the number 12 ranker, Greed Wolf. It was just that they didn't know if Qin Wentian could use God's hand as he pleased. If he could, that would be a power that truly belonged to Qin Wentian. His ranking might even be able to break through to the top 10. Although this Qin sect only has 5 members, their potential is extremely terrifying. With just Princess Qing and Qin Wentian, they are already a force to be reckoned with. In addition to Hua Taishu and the other 2, their potential is also extremely high. If they break through to the 9th level of celestial phenomenon, their combat prowess would surely be terrifying as well. Right now, they can already use illusions to affect the geniuses here. Senior brother, how should we deal with these fellows? Jun Mengchen gathered all the heavily injured geniuses together. Qin Wentian glanced at them and replied, throw them out. Right. Jun Mengchen laughed. After that, he tossed those fellows out of the Xiao sect one by one, causing the hearts of the geniuses outside to tremble. These fellows were truly ruthless. Not only did they heavily injure these geniuses, they even snatched away their interspatial rings. Those heavily injured geniuses all had cold expressions on their faces. Their faces were completely pale. They couldn't even catch their breaths. Being tossed outside like animals, how humiliating was this? They had lost all faith in this battle. Chapter 930. Qin Wentian's group of 5 seized control of the Xiao sect and obtained many interspatial rings, as well as several tens of geniuses from the Xiao sect. After the battle, Qin Wentian went to the courtyard where he used to reside in to cultivate. He absorbed astral energy and continued to refine his divine energy. Defeating Greed Wolf and the others wasn't even worth mentioning. Right now, the Twin Stars Alliance had the number 4 and number 6 rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings, Xianyang and Xiaolingyue, in addition to several rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings. They were the truly powerful ones. At the very least, with the strength of the 5 of them, it was impossible for them to contend against the Twin Stars Alliance. Although Jun Mingchen had injuries on his body, they weren't serious. While Qin Wentian was cultivating, he changed the word Xiao, outside the Xiao sect, to Qin sect, causing the people outside to be speechless. Did these 5 people really intend to establish the Qin sect here? How could the Twin Stars Alliance let them off? Most probably, it wouldn't be long before the Twin Stars Alliance found out about this and rushed over. Hence, the people outside didn't leave. In fact, there were even more experts rushing over. They knew that a huge clash might occur here. Back then when Qin Wentian killed Xianxing, many people in the City of Ancient Emperors didn't have the chance to witness it. They also didn't have the chance to personally witness the might of God's hand. Now that they heard that Qin Wentian appeared in the City of Ancient Emperors again, it would truly be a pity if they didn't show up to take a look. The area outside the Xiao sect and the current Qin sect was extremely lively. Geniuses kept appearing, and there were even many rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings. Jeez. Just at this moment, the gazes of many heavens' prides turned towards the figure of an incomparably cold and arrogant woman standing in the distance. That woman quietly stood there. Yet it was as though she was the center of the entire world, stealing away everyone's light. It's Namhuang Yunxi. Interesting, this battle already involved the number 4, number 5 and number 6 rankers. Now the number 3 ranker, Namhuang Yunxi, has also arrived. If Namhuang Yunxi is here, the 3 most beautiful geniuses in the City of Ancient Emperors would all be gathered here, the spectators mused. Back then when Qin Wentian and the others entered the Emperor Palace, Namhuang Yunxi had also entered, and saw the monument left behind by the ancient emperor as well as the blood-colored runes. However, it was extremely difficult to comprehend those runes. It was like a heavenly book and eventually vanished from her mind. But after that, she heard that there was someone who succeeded in cultivating the god's hand. She couldn't help but to feel curious. The power she couldn't comprehend was actually comprehended by a 7th-level ascendant named Qin Wentian. Now that she heard that Qin Wentian had appeared in the city of ancient emperors, she decided to come over to take a look. She wanted to see how powerful the lost secret art of ancient Emperor Yi was. The appearance of the god's hand caused a storm to rise in the city of ancient emperors. 3 of the top 10 rankers of the Immortal Ascension rankings fought against each other, and Qin Wentian also rose up. And now, there's another piece of news circulating in the city of ancient emperors. Seems like this time around, there's going to be a storm of commotion. Among the crowd, a genius murmured. His words caused the gazes of many to turn to him as they asked, "What news are you referring to? Everyone, have you not heard of it?" That person glanced at the crowd as he asked, "Could it be that this news is comparable to the appearance of the god's hand?" Someone asked, his eyes gleaming. "Many people have already received this news, and it's still spreading. I believe that this news will soon circulate throughout the entire city of ancient emperors. Let me tell you all about it. There's a rumor that the underworld mountains in the city of ancient emperors contains the inheritance of an ancient emperor. There's a high possibility that the inheritance of that ancient emperor is there," that person replied. Upon hearing their words, the crowd felt somewhat disappointed. One of them replied, "There have been people speculating about this since a long time ago. What's so strange about it? What do you know? This time around it's different." That person snorted coldly as he retorted, "This time around the news is concrete. Do you all know which ancient emperor it is?" "Which one?" The expressions of the crowd stiffened when they heard this. Many geniuses turned their gazes to the person who spoke. "The Brahma Heavenly Emperor," that person replied. As the sound of his voice faded, the gazes of everyone froze. It was as though they could hear their own heartbeats pounding unceasingly. "Is this true?" After a long time, someone asked, his voice trembling slightly. "The Brahma Heavenly Emperor." It was actually the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. They naturally had heard of the name of this ancient emperor before. Some referred to him as the Immortal Emperor, some referred to him as the Devil Emperor, and there were also some who referred to him as the Demon Emperor. There were many legends regarding the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, and there were even rumors that his true form was that of a demonic beast. However, there were no records in the ancient records that could prove that the Brahma Heavenly Emperor was the Demon Emperor. Although the Brahma Heavenly Emperor didn't unify the immortal realms, he had once killed several supremely powerful immortal emperors during his peak, seizing their strength. Not only that, he was even stronger than the previous immortal emperors, causing the entire immortal realms to tremble. After that, he was surrounded by the entire immortal realms, and was hunted down frenziedly. Finally, they managed to obstruct the Brahma Heavenly Emperor at the unaging peak. In that battle, 8 peak-stage immortal emperors joined forces, wanting to kill the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. In that battle, all 8 immortal emperors died. Not a single one survived. From then on, the Brahma Heavenly Emperor vanished without a trace, as though he had never appeared in the immortal realms before. No one knew where he went, and even now, he was still a mystery. This immortal emperor that shook the past and present had vanished just like that, bringing along his ultimate art, the great Brahma art. No one knew what secrets this cultivation art contained. They only knew that after the Brahma Heavenly Emperor killed those immortal emperors, he used their ultimate arts and unleashed their power to an even greater extent, truly shocking the heavens and earth. Every expert cultivated a different elemental attribute. Yet the Brahma Heavenly Emperor was able to cultivate their ultimate arts to such a terrifying degree. The cultivation art the Brahma Heavenly Emperor cultivated was mysterious and filled with creativity, as though it was an unprecedented cultivation art. But with the disappearance of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, the divine art he cultivated, the great Brahma art, also disappeared. This ultimate art was lost. Right now, in the city of ancient emperors, there were people claiming that the underworld mountains were the ruins of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor. How could the hearts of the geniuses not tremble? The underworld mountains contained the ruins of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor? In that case, even if they knew it was a treacherous place, they still had to give it a try. Of course it's true. This news has already circulated, and many people already know about it. Hence, there's no need for me to hide it. If I was the only one who received this news, I wouldn't have told you guys. That genius spoke. As the sound of his voice faded, a beautiful silhouette appeared before him, causing him to be stunned as he stared at the breathtaking countenance before him. Nam Huang Yunxi. That genius mumbled in a low voice. The person who appeared before him was none other than Nam Huang Yunxi. Where did this news originate from? Has it been verified that it's the ruins of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor? Nam Huang Yunxi asked. Evidently, there was no one who wouldn't be moved by the ruins of an ancient emperor. From ancient times until now, the immortal realms had experienced countless years. But in the long river of history, only a small number of ancient emperors could be remembered by the people. Each one of them could move the hearts of the people, let alone the Brahma Heavenly Emperor himself, who was already so mysterious and legendary. I have no idea where this news originated from, but in any case, it's gradually spreading. I feel that there are people intentionally spreading this news, but as for whether or not it's verified, I have no way of knowing. The underworld mountains is a treacherous place, and I've never been there before. Without actually seeing the ruins of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor, who would dare to say that it's true? That person replied, causing Nam Huang Yunxi's beautiful eyes to flicker. Seems like the truth of this matter still needed to be verified. With a flash, Nam Huang Yunxi's silhouette returned to her original location, causing that genius to feel a sense of disappointment. He sniffed the air forcefully, as though he still couldn't bear to part with that faint fragrance. Being so close to the supreme beauty Nam Huang Yunxi was truly refreshing. The news of the Brahma Heavenly Emperor swiftly circulated around. There were even some geniuses who wanted to form an alliance and head to the underworld mountains to investigate. Since there was such a rumor, they definitely couldn't miss it. After a period of time, from afar, a powerful aura gushed over. Many people turned their gazes over only to see a group of experts flying over in an imposing manner. Over 100 geniuses were present, and the two people in the lead exuded magnificence through the generations. These two were none other than the newest members of the Twin Stars Alliance, Xianyang and Xiaolingyue. Glancing over, one could see that outside the Xiao sect, the word Xiao had been changed to Qin. On the ground, there were many geniuses lying on the ground. Some had fainted, while others were too heavily injured to move. Upon seeing this scene, Xianyang and Xiaolingyue turned ashen as they commanded, "Bring them back to recuperate first." Behind them, several geniuses rushed forward, lifting Greed Wolf and the others up and bringing them away. Their Twin Stars Alliance's disciples were heavily injured, and lying on the ground with no one to care about them. This was simply a humiliation. "Scram out!" Xianyang roared, his voice shaking the heavens and earth as he lunged towards the Xiao sect. Terrifying sound waves engulfed this entire space, and everyone could feel the baleful aura radiating from Xianyang. Qin Wentian. Xiaolingyue's beautiful countenance was extremely cold at this moment, exuding an icy killing intent. Back then in that battle she almost died. It was only because the Xiao Emperor's immortal sense appeared and brought her away from the battlefield, saving her life. This already caused her to lose all faith in the city of ancient emperors. Now Qin Wentian and a mere group of 5 actually dared to kill their way into the Xiao sect, injuring an old member of the Xiao sect and tossing them outside? This was a great humiliation. From within the Xiao sect, a figure soared up into the air. This was none other than Qin Wentian. Beside him, the silhouette of Qing could be seen, exuding an incomparably breathtaking beauty, akin to a flawless snow lotus. Many people surveyed Qing before turning their gazes onto Xiaolingyue and Nam Huang Yunxi. Today, the 3 great beauties of the city of ancient emperors were all gathered here. This was truly a feast for the eyes. Every single one of them exuded a different kind of beauty. Nam Huang Yunxi was also surveying Qin Wentian and Qing. This Qin Wentian seemed somewhat familiar. Back then when she was heading to the Emperor Palace, she had seen him before. But back then, she didn't pay much attention to him. Who would have thought that he was the one who cultivated God's hand? At that time he was still inconspicuous behind Xiaolingyue. Who would have thought that he would cause such a commotion so quickly? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.